Alright, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. What the fuck is this? Is there a ginger cat in the room? The fuck is that? Or is there some kind of creature? Should I be concerned? One sec. What the fuck are you doing in here, little ginger cat? Kinda scared me. What are you doing? Leave, please. Midge. Nice. What do you mean? No. Would you like to leave? Listen, okay? Don't hate me. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I feel like I have to explain. So, there was some noises coming from my closet. I was a little concerned. But I also wasn't that concerned because I was sleeping with my door open. I took like a bit of a nap. That's why I started the stream so late. And there's a thing in my closet, like it's like underneath the shelf. So like there's like a little bit of a gap underneath the shelf, like above the ground. And the little ginger cat likes to squeeze under there and hang out. So he came in. I tried to get him out, but he was the one in the closet making noises. I tried to get him out, but then Midge came in, and then she saw the ginger cat, and she was annoyed. She's like, why the fuck is he allowed in, but I'm not allowed in? How long has he been in there? Why are you hanging out with him? Because she doesn't like him all that much. So she was a little annoyed, and then she left. She's like, what the fuck? I didn't want to come in there in the first place. Hello, Mr. Ginger Cat. But, hello, welcome to the stream. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. Fluffkins, hello, welcome. Ginger Cat wants to leave now. He probably has to go to the bathroom. Be nice, Midge. Joey's skin is fucking wicked. We'll look at him. We'll look at him. But what is up? So, there is a new dev blog that they released yesterday. Very interesting. Hi? Hi smile? Why are we hi smiling? Why are we hi smiling? Confused. We will look at the skin, shall we? Skins. We will look at the dev blog as well. I'm not going to be playing the PTB, by the way, today, because I don't have any interest in PTBs. Just doesn't really interest me. And, I can explain why if people really care to know, but it's just not for me. I don't care. At least the DVD PTBs. You said hello, and I realized I never say hello back properly, so hi. Okay, that's fair. You wave, though. You wave at the start of the stream. That's like your hello, I would assume. We will be reading the patch notes, and then we're going to play some Skull Merchant. Because I only need a small amount more shards. Saying hello. What's up, Animal? Welcome. And then we will also play some Survivor in between the Skull Merchant games. Firstly, let's look at these skins they just released. Release these skins. There is a Kate skin. So they're going for the sci-fi. I think it's pretty cool. She's got like a little bit of a fancy, like kind of corporation kind of dress going on. Here, I'll hide myself. It's a little bit sci-fi. It's honestly not that sci-fi. I like that there's a little bit of like punk studs going on. The gloves are kind of nice. It's a nice skin. This bit right here is a bit like badly seamed. Like you can see. Like I know it's because it's two different pieces of clothing. Right? Top is the best part. It does look nice. It does look nice. But you can see like when it's on the whole outfit, you can see how there's like two different layers here. It looks kind of bad. I did kind of want a skirt, but sadly it's not red enough for me, really. It's more sci-fi. The hair is kind of fun. The hair is kind of sci-fi. It definitely looks like very like diplomat, like Star Wars senator kind of look going on. Which is kind of fun. Got like a little bit of like wing makeup going on. Just from Alice in Wonderland. Oh wow, the Alice in Wonderland skins are actually, I guess it's not licensed. I don't know, I assumed the Alice in Wonderland stuff was licensed, but you can buy them with shards. Kind of a, you know, it's a nice skin, nice variation. It's nice to get some sci-fi stuff. We got Jonah, he's looking pretty wicked, actually. That is bright as fuck, though. You're gonna get seen, absolutely. The blue on the shoes doesn't match the rest of the outfit at all, so that's kind of a question mark. I'm not sure why that's a thing. Why wouldn't it be purple to match the shirt? I don't know. Sometimes there's some blue, like he has a blue tie, I guess. I don't know. Sometimes the color matching on their outfits is fucking whack. It's like they design some of the pieces like separately and they don't actually look at it together. Like you've got like the geometric shapes here, and then you've got like some shapes going on here. I guess it's more like lines, but like it kind of matches. And I mean like the purple, you know, purple, yellow, and then you got the yellow stripe down the side. It looks good. And then you just got random blue on his shoes and like on his tie. Like, I don't know, like I know that you don't want your outfit to be like fully color coordinated because then it can look a bit tacky, but I don't know. It's just like random blue shoes. And I mean the tie is less noticeable because ties usually come in colors like that, but like just random bright blue shoes. I don't know, it's weird. It's sometimes like it feels like they design like part of the clothes independently. So Alice in Wonderland is public domain, by the way, so anybody can do whatever they want with the IP. Ah, okay, so it's actually cool how Sherlock Holmes went public domain, like within the last like 10 years or something. I don't know if it was recent, but stuff like public domain is cool. Honestly, it really is kind of cool. I don't think everything should be public domain, but some things being public domain is pretty cool. Next, we got the Legion skin. Pretty fucking gruesome. I mean, this looks pretty gruesome. This looks pretty cool. I don't like knives like this because unless they look different in game, like it looks cool, but then when you hit people, it just doesn't look quite right. You know what I mean? Just doesn't look quite right. So I'm not like a big fan of that, but it does look cool. It's got like the 1,000-degree knife look going on. Looks very I don't know, it kind of reminds me of Dead Space a little bit, right? Like the kind of like armor and then like covered in like bloody guts and stuff. The mask is kind of cool. Tic-tac-toe XO, it's kind of cool. Hey, it's a cool skin. It's a cool skin. I think all three of these skins are cool just because it's nice to have some more sci-fi stuff going on. I feel like looks like a comic book villain, to be honest. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I can kind of see it. Yeah, I can kind of see it. Like one of those more generic ones that just has like the guns and stuff. I can see it. What's up, Arbiter? Welcome. Welcome. Kind of an interesting little skin. I think that more sci-fi stuff is cool. They should add more and more, to be honest. I mean, I guess this is a little sci-fi. This is definitely a bit sci-fi. More sci-fi skins are cool. I like that they're kind of venturing into the sci-fi. It's kind of sick. Alright. I do want to look at the patch notes and talk about them. We might talk about them for a while, but I enjoy stuff like this, so. I like talking about this kind of stuff before we play. Or not before we play, but just I like talking about this stuff, and it'd be fun to talk about it before we play. They have made some interesting changes, and the entirety of the DVD community is painful. Because I did read some Twitter, and fucking hell, people are stupid as shit. But it is what it is. Okay. So I'm bringing it up on screen. Takes a little bit of doing. Example of why I say that in stream chat. Okay. See what we got. No, I can kind of see it. No, yeah, it does look like ate a lot of beer and drank a bunch of ribs. Ate a lot of beer and drank a bunch of ribs. Other than that, I'm chilling. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. What kind of ribs? Did you go for like the, you know, classic barbecue? I really need to eat more ribs, to be honest. No, I can see the comic book kind of thing. I can see what you're saying for sure. This should be good. I think I should be able to show this. Yeah. I think I should be able to just do display capture. Actually, I can do window capture. That should be good. Alright, cool. It's gonna be a little bit. Oh, it's because I. Oh yeah. Okay. So I'll hide that. There you go. Look, there you go. It's gonna be a little bit cut off, and then I will also turn off mute focus, so that way we can hear some music in the background. It's a bit loud though. Menu music. I'm gonna turn that down. Mesquit smoked a dry rub with the fam. Couldn't do the usual sweet sauce because of the diet things, but it was sensational. Hell yeah, man. Oh, yeah, happy 4th. Well, I guess it's not 4th of July anymore, but happy late 4th of July. That sounds pretty good. Pretty good. Alright. Here we go. So, firstly, starting this off, it's interesting because this is not the same person that did the previous one. And I did feel like the wording of the previous one was a bit more... So, Peanuts usually posts these, like, has for the last, like, countless years, right? These dev updates are usually posted by Peanuts. But the last one wasn't, actually. And I do feel like the wording of the last one was a lot more inclusive of both sides of Killer and Survivor. I do feel like Peanuts' wording usually tends to be a little bit Survivor biased. Obviously, they have no control. They're just a community manager, so they have no control over what's in the post at all. But I do feel like their wording is a little bit Survivor biased. And I have read this already a little bit. And there's some things that are like, okay, dude. You do realize that the killer is a player as well, right? But the changes have nothing to do with them, so. But it's interesting that the real interesting part is that the last person was different. For like the first time in years, somebody else posted them. But it was only for that one post. Maybe they were just on vacation or something. But maybe Peanuts was on vacation or something. But it's very strange. Very strange that the last one was a completely different person. Just for the first time ever. In like years and years and years. Anyways. Summer is upon us. The entity's realm is heating up. So this is the mid-chapter patch, right? This is looking for the mid-chapter patch, I'm pretty sure. Between an extra special guest making his long-awaited debut, so they're talking about Nicolas Cage, and the return of a classic summertime event, our next update is already packed with content. What's the classic summertime event? Okay, firstly, I need to stop Hillbilly fucking growling. Let me go to Survivor, so that way they can stop fucking growling at us. There you go. Classically, there's an event in summer. Yeah, but what event? What event specifically? Because it says the return of a classic summertime event. I guess classic, it could be like the barbecue thing, right? They haven't done that one in years, though. But I guess it's a classic one. But who knows? Our next update is already packed with content, but we're just getting started. We have loads of exciting features and balance changes in store for you. And we're going to dive into each of them today. So, firstly, Survivor disconnect bots. Nobody likes being left hanging, especially when you're literally left hanging from a hook. Disconnections are sometimes unavoidable, true. A lot of the time, people just DC, though, because they're shitheads. And it's kind of promoted in the DVD community to just DC whenever something is bad. So while disconnect penalties can help discourage people from leaving a match, they don't often soften the blow when you're abandoned early on. True. Our studies, unsurprisingly, found that your odds of escaping drop significantly when you remove one survivor from the trial. Who would have guessed? I don't think that this is important. It doesn't matter if your chances of winning go down, because your chances of winning still go down with the bot. It's about being able to still be able to play the game. And obviously, it's not going to be an organic match when you get a bot, but at least means you can still keep playing. You know what I mean? And not feel like it's like just a complete waste of your time. So I don't really think if it matters if it decreases your chances or not. It's just like having an extra person just feels like it's more of an organic experience. But I mean, obviously, it is going to decrease your chances, and it's a good idea to not let it decrease your chances. That's where Dwight Bot and his many friends come in. Going forward, any survivor disconnects will be replaced with an AI substitute, which is a good thing. When this happens, everyone in the match will be notified their bot is taken over. This does not change anything on the disconnecting player's side. They still receive a disconnection penalty and forfeit any blood points they've accumulated thus far. Good. We've been working hard towards improving our survivor bot AI ever since their introduction to custom games last year. They're kind of stupid. They're like smart at times, but then also stupid at times. So it's interesting to see how it'll be when they're actually in like real matches with other survivor players and stuff. You can play with survivor players and bots right now, but I don't think many people do, because why would you? It's just fake players. And like they just don't work very well. While bots cannot truly replace the experience of playing with real people, true. They are more than capable of stepping in when needed to help prepare generators, set aside survivors, and keep the killer busy. We will continue to improve the survivor bot AI over time, as we've done in the recent updates. This is a good thing. There's honestly nothing wrong with this. As long as they're still punishing the people, which they are, this is just a good thing. There could be nothing wrong with this, since they're still punishing people. If they remove the punishment, then it would be an issue. But they're not. They're still punishing people, so who disconnect, which they should. And it's just a nice thing to help keep the game feeling more organic, flowing, and not feel like a shit show once somebody DCs. So, A+. Good thing. Next, successful report feedback. When you come across player behaviors in a trial that don't comply with our game rules, we highly encourage that you report them. That said, we recognize that never hearing back from us what is done with your reports doesn't exactly encourage that practice. This is why the team has designed a successful report feature. In the next update, you'll notice a window appearing when logging in if one of your reports has led to a ban. The message will show you the date of the player ban and the reason for banning. Note that if a player gets banned and unbanned multiple times, you as a reporter will only get notified once per report you sent. This is interesting to me because it's this interesting thing where people need satisfaction for like things that they do to want to keep doing them, regardless if it's doing something or not. You know what I mean? They want like confirmation that it did something, which is like fair. That's like a human thing. You know what I mean? Like to want to know that it's doing something. But I don't really feel this as much as other people. I don't really need to know when people get reported. It's more so just knowing that the game is in a positive state. But I guess it helps because even when you do ban people, new people can start doing those bad things, and it can feel like nothing is changing. You know what I mean? But if you're getting these reports, you can know, okay, well, the people I'm reporting are getting banned, but there's just other people doing it as well. So it can kind of feel like you're, you know, cleaning up the mean streets kind of thing. So I mean, like, it's not a bad thing. It's just I don't really feel the need for this, but a lot of people do. So I guess it'll help people report more. The thing is in DBD though that I feel like is a problem is that people report for things that aren't actually reportable, and it just convolutes the system, or clogs the system, not convolutes, and makes it so that the actual people who need to be banned don't actually get, like, looked into, because so many people are getting reports. So oops. These feedback messages will apply to both temporary for things for like harassment, as well as for permanent bans for cheating. We're constantly improving our anti-cheat and security measures to prevent cheaters from playing to begin with, but we want to assure you that cheaters are dealt with seriously whenever they manage to slip through. We're hoping this feature will make reporting problematic in-game behaviors feel more purposeful and worthwhile. We're very grateful to all of you out there who are investing your personal time and effort towards keeping our game safe and fun. Thank you for your help. I mean, it's a good thing, so it'll also theoretically help you determine which things you report for are actually bannable. Yes and no, because I feel like the people who do those stupid reports are unhelpable. They're just beyond stupid, to be honest. Like, and they're just going to be like, oh, they just never do anything. You know what I mean? They're not going to think, oh, the people I'm reporting aren't actually bannable. They're going to think, oh, they're not doing anything about these people who need to be banned. You know what I mean? Like, that's the conclusion they're going to come to. They're not going to come to the realistic, smart conclusion, because they're not realistic, smart people. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not how they're going to think. They're going to go emotional, and they're going to be angry about something that is just incorrect. Like, it's just the truth, sadly. But theoretically, I think is the key word there, right? Because those people just are hard to help in the first place. So, it is what it is. Next, Onryo, which is really interesting. She is probably one of the weakest killers in the game. I'd say she's like bottom 6 at the very least. So it's nice to see her get a change, because she has not been changed since release. So very interesting. A little over a year ago, Sadako crawled out of a TV and into our hearts and the entity's realm for the first time. It's been interesting to see different playstyles emerge since then. So they're definitely talking about condemned Sadako there. And today we have changes in store to make the Onryo more terrifying than ever. Projection. When the Onryo is demanifested, she can project herself to any power TV around the map. This would inflict nearby survivors with a stack of condemned in the process. We've made significant changes to this mechanic. So previously, the realistic way that this mechanic worked was you used it to get around the map and get closer to survivors than you would normally, because if you just like walked, it would be, you know, they would react a little bit faster. Actually, sometimes less fast, because of the way that the projection is so obvious. So it's more so like a strategy for teleporting around the map just to get movement. The condemned stacks don't really do anything, except when you play Condemned Sadako, which is a specific play style where you don't hook anybody. You go for teleports around the map constantly with the iridescent tape, which resets the TVs because they take a long time to reset. So it's more of a thing like to move around the map. So it's interesting to see what they'll do to it. I've already read this, but I haven't like talked about it in depth, which usually brings you to different like new conclusions and stuff, and kind of like expands on the idea. So projecting to a TV now applies 3/4 of a stack of condemned to all survivors not carrying a cursed tape. Was one stack to nearby survivors. So you kind of need to read all the changes to really get an idea, but this is map wide. So everybody on the whole map, if they're not carrying a tape, will get 3/4 of a stack. This is interesting because obviously 3/4 times 10. How do you can't do this with fucking, I guess I just have to add it up. How many 3/4s are in 7? Or is it 7 stacks for a thing? 7.5. I don't know what question you just answered. I could just do the math, but honestly, I prefer just using Google, because I honestly just don't care enough to do it in my head. Well, for every 3, you have to add an extra one on. Times 10 adds up to 7.5. I think it's 7 stacks of Condemned. Let me look. Onryo DVD Wiki. I'm pretty sure it's 7 stacks that you need. Check, just to be certain. Yeah, 7 stacks. So, you need 10 to actually condemn people. You need to teleport to 10 TVs, which is interesting. Because the time the TV is disabled after the Onryo projects to it has been reduced to 70 seconds. So it was very, very long. So now it's only 70 seconds instead of 100 seconds. So this is a nice buff. This is a nice buff. So it means that you can kind of pressure an area and then still get back there to pressure it again in 70 seconds. So, because before it was you teleport to an area, you'd pressure it a little bit, and then you'd go off to do something else, a chase usually. And then if you want to get back to that area, because there's a gen there that's going to be completed, you can't. And now you have to walk there and waste a whole bunch of time. And so it feels like a weaker Freddy teleport, to be honest. So it's nice that they reduced it. 70 seconds is still a bit of a long time, but you can reduce it with add-ons. And it does mean that you can maybe get more of these teleports, because it now, you know, you only need to teleport. But the thing is, now you can teleport to every TV, which, if I check, DVD Wiki Onryo, I should check. I should just leave this open, honestly. Although I don't think I need to check anything else. How many TVs are there on the map? Does it say? It doesn't say on the wiki. Doesn't say how many TVs there are on a map. Don't actually know. I don't know. That's a really important question, actually. Because if there's not enough TVs, that's kind of an issue, obviously. Because you'd have to wait the 70 seconds. Don't know how many TVs. Actually, I guess I can just Google it. How many TVs does Sadako spawn in DVD? Actually, it doesn't say. Maybe it's random. Maybe it's random. It actually might be random. Because it's talking about how it spawns a certain distance away from each other. So it actually might be random. It's interesting. Might be determined on map-by-map basis. That would make sense too, yeah. So yeah, it might be a bit random. I don't play Onryo, so I don't know how many really spawn on average. But some people probably know. But the time a TV is disabled after Survivor removes the cursed tape has been increased to 90 seconds. This is a buff. It was 60. So basically they want survivors to interact with the tapes more. That's what they're kind of trying to do. They're trying to get survivors to interact with the tapes more. But now, projection now has a 15-second cooldown. So, Condemned Sadako's dead. Because the only way that Condemned Sadako worked before is you would spam teleport all around the map, and even while doing this Condemned strategy, you would still barely... Well, actually, maybe it's not dead, because now it applies to everybody in the map. So these changes are really very impactful. Like, this is a complete rework. So you can't really say she's dead, because now it's like you don't need to do it specifically to them, so you're going to get more value out of your teleports, because every teleport is now going to do something, if they're not carrying a tape. But now they're going to pick up tapes, so it's like, you're gonna have to see how this plays out, and the PTB does not work for that, so we're gonna have to wait till it goes to live, to be honest. This is basically a complete rework, though, which is really interesting. Sounds like it can only work against survivors that don't work towards stopping it. Yeah, but there is more to it. There is more to it. Since there's no longer a range limit on the condemned effect, we need to limit how frequently this can happen. I don't know why, because they can go and turn off the TVs for 90 seconds. They can pick up tapes, which stops them getting applied to them. And she can only teleport so many times before it gets reduced. So I don't know why you have to put a limit on it, to be honest. Shouldn't the limit be the TVs itself instead of this cooldown? Like, why can't the limit just be the TVs? And how much the survivors are actively working to stop her. Combined, these changes make it much easier to spread condemned while using your power in a way that feels natural. So they're saying easier to spread condemned without spamming your teleport all over the map. That's literally what they're saying with that sentence. They're saying, now you can spread condemned without having to do the condemned playstyle where you just teleport, spam teleport, eerie tape, reset them, and then spam teleport. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I think the playstyle of Unreal before was kind of fun. With the, like, knowing, like, trying to guess where people are and then teleport on top of them. And teleporting as much as you can to try and get the condemned. But I can understand that it's not a very, like, fluid gameplay loop. And it's kind of not super interactive for the survivors as much. So I can understand them trying to make that not her default playstyle. But I don't really like the idea of killing playstyles, which kind of sucks. But, I mean, I can understand where they're going with it, and sometimes casualties have to happen. But the next thing, cursed tapes have become more dangerous as well. Though holding a cursed tape, so this stuff kind of goes hand in hand. You can't really look at this without looking at this as well. This part down here you can basically look at by itself because nothing changes. But cursed tapes have become more dangerous as well. Though holding a cursed tape may protect you from the condemned effect, when the owner teleports, they come with their own risks. So getting hit with a basic attack while carrying a cursed tape will apply 1 stack of condemned. When a survivor carrying a cursed tape is hooked, all other survivors gain 1 stack of condemned, and the tape is destroyed. Holding a cursed tape no longer passively builds condemned. Cursed tapes can now be placed in any TV other than the one they were retrieved from. So usually, it used to be that they needed to be placed in the farthest away TV. Now you can place them in any. Taking a cursed tape is now a strategic choice you will need to make. The protection it offers may be beneficial for now, but it's much more punishing if you're caught carrying one. You'll want to plan carefully and get rid of your tape if you fear the on-rail may be on her way. So something that I've heard that's very interesting is if I what was I gonna look up? I was gonna look up something. Oh, how much it goes down when you insert a tape. So you lose 3 stacks when you insert a tape. Okay? And if you, so let's say a game starts, right? Let's say a game starts, and every survivor goes and grabs a tape, okay? Now, if she teleports, it does nothing. It applies no stacks to anybody. And if you get hit with a basic attack, you get 1. If you get hit with a basic attack again, you get 2. And then when you get hooked, you have 2. All of your teammates have 1. Now they get attacked. They get 1, 2. So now they're up to 3. And then everybody else gets 1. So you can basically make her teleport to nothing. And then as soon as it gets dangerous, you just insert it. Carrying them is only dangerous if she's applying basic attacks and not chasing you down to death. So, just injuring people. So, her getting injures can be quite impactful if you're carrying a tape. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Although, you'll have to pick up a new tape to then get rid of your 2 stacks that you got from the first chase, if that makes sense. Because your tape is destroyed, so you have to pick up a new one to be able to get rid of those 2 stacks. And so you will grab a new tape, and then now you have a new tape that could get you an extra 2 stacks. And if she teleports right after you got unhooked, then you'll get 3/4, but because of the 3/4 thing, she'll have to teleport 4 times. No, not even 4 times, right? Would it be 4 times? Yeah, it would be 4 times. So 4 times would get you a full stack. Or it would get you 4 stacks. So, actually, no, it wouldn't, would it? No, yeah, because it would only fill up the 3. So you'd only get 3. So if she teleports 4 times, you get 3. So then you'd be on 5. It's like, you can just pick one up. And the thing is that because you can just deposit it to the TV, you can just avoid her so easily. It used to be that if your TV was in a really bad location, now you're in trouble because you have to go to a very specific spot. It's like pig traps, for example. If the pig is at the trap that you need, fuck. You know what I mean? And with on-rail, it wasn't as big of a deal because you could just hide. You know what I mean? And then do it. Pig traps, obviously, it's a lot bigger deal, but the pig has no idea which one you need. And she has no idea where her pig traps are. Actually, no, she does, actually. But she has no idea which ones you've scouted and stuff, but she can figure that out if she's smart. But, so the pig thing's a little bit of a bad example, because pig can kind of camp those and, like, punish you for it, but the on-rail can't. And now, but the thing is that TVs are so close to each other. It'll take, like, 10 seconds to grab a tape and then deposit it. Like, literally 10 seconds. And not only does it only take 10 seconds, but there's no punishment for it, and it disables the TV for 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Which is, like, a lot. That's a lot. So, I think that people will get stacks of Condemned, but it's so easy to get rid of them still. I think that they kind of missed the mark with this, because the reason that Condemned doesn't work very well is a 2-part reason. And it's because, 1, it's really hard to apply Condemned. 2, it's really easy to get rid of Condemned. They changed how easy it is to apply it. Now you can apply it quite easily, but they didn't get rid of how easy it is to get rid of it. So, it's like, yeah, you're going to be applying it now, but it's so easy to get rid of. Honestly, they've made it easier to get rid of. So, it basically is like she's still going to suck against anybody who's paying half a brain cell of attention. Like, you just run around, grab a tape, put it in. Like, I don't think there's any strategic choice here. Like, I agree with what you said, Anima, that it just, like, anytime you pass a TV, you just grab one, and then you just stick it in next time you run past the TV. Like, it gets rid of 3 whole stacks, and the maximum you can get from picking one up is 2 stacks. I think that this should be removed. I think that this should apply 3/4 of a stack. I'm not sure how I feel about the 3/4 thing, but that's like a value that you'd have to test. So I'd say keep the 3/4, remove this part. Just make it all survivors. Like, because then, now carrying one is fucking dangerous, because at any time, she could apply 2 stacks to you. You know what I mean? Anytime while you're carrying one, you could get 2 stacks. Whereas, as soon as you pick up a tape, you know that you are safe as long as you are below 2 stacks. There is no other way for you to get stacks, unless she hooks somebody, actually. But, you're gonna know when that's happening! So, if you pick up a tape, as long as you are below, if you're on 4 stacks, and you pick up a tape, you're perfectly safe. There's no fear. You're perfectly safe. It is completely in your hands to fuck it up. Because if she goes to hook somebody, you know that she's gonna pick them up. You know that she just picked them up. And you know that they have a tape, because you can see it on the screen. So you'll just run to the nearby TV and put a tape in, and you're safe, because you can apply it to any tape. It's not, oh, I have to run across the map, will I make it in time? It's, no, I have to run 5 seconds over to this TV, boop, I'm safe. Because you'll go down by 3, and then you'll go up by 1, and now you're at, like, 5. Now she can teleport, though, to be fair, but you can just go grab another tape, and then now you're safe again. So, it's like, especially because it's 3/4, actually. Because if you actually do the values here, okay, let's say you're at 4 stacks, and you pick up a tape, okay? 4 stacks, pick up a tape. You're holding a tape, you're at 4 stacks, she hooks somebody. While she is hooking that person, you know that I am unsafe because they are hooking that person. So I'm going to go deposit my tape. Boom, you deposit the tape, now you're on 1 stack. Then you go up to 2 stacks, now you have to pick up a new tape, otherwise she can start teleporting around the map and punish you. But there's a 15-second cooldown. So you pick up a new tape, and now you're safe because you're at 2 stacks, and you can only go up to 4. So let's say she gets in 2 teleports before you pick up a tape, which will never happen because there's a 15-second cooldown. So she'll get 1 teleport. So you'll be at 2 stacks and 3/4, and now you'll have a tape. So you can go up to 4 stacks, and let's say she goes to hook somebody, you go put your tape in, now you're at 0. In what world does she get somebody to 7? Like, in what world does anybody actually reach 7 stacks? Ever. Like, the only world I can think of is when survivors just don't pick up tapes like idiots. And it's like, oh. Okay. So it's a survivor-controlled mechanic yet again. It's like they just missed the whole point of why Condemned sucks. It's like, it's really hard to apply without the iridescent, and then it's super easy to get rid of. Like, dude, literally, the player base spelled it out for them. Like, the player base spelled out how Condemned needs to work for it ever to work. Like, and they literally made an entire build around making Condemned work. And you know what it had? It had save the best for last, because otherwise the survivor can just put the tape in, right? You literally need it. It's a needed perk. You have to slug people to slow the game down long enough. You have to teleport all around the map and get free injures. You have to stop people from healing super well. You need to apply it to other people who do heals, so that way your slowdown is inherently combined into your Condemned. Like, so already there's 2 things, right? That they need to be harder to put the tape into a specific spot. Like, it needs to be harder for them to get the tape in, because even if the Onryo is chasing them, they can just deposit it to stop the Condemned. So something like Exposed when you're Condemned would be cool. You know what I mean? That'd be a nice change. Then also, her power that applies Condemns needs to inherently slow the game down or speed her up in some way, right? Like a teleport. Because otherwise, it's just not fast enough, right? The game is just over too quickly. And then also, it needs to be applied more easily and quicker throughout the entirety of the match using the iridescent. And they saw that, and they thought, alright, we'll make it so you can apply it a bit easier, but not as fast, and it's not inherently as useful anymore because it's a 15-second cooldown. It's like now you can apply Condemned, but it'll never ever actually do anything. So yeah, at least it's a slowdown mechanic though. Like, the survivors are gonna have to be picking up tapes. That's a good thing. But the thing is that because they can place them in any TV, it's like they can deposit them so quickly that it just won't slow them down that much. Like, TVs are incredibly close to each other. Like, TVs are incredibly close to each other. Like, it is like a 5-second run for survivors. Like, it literally takes them like 5 seconds to run from TV to TV, and then they just deposit their tape. Like, it's kind of rough. I don't know Sadako enough to know how these changes will affect Condemned Sadako. Like, I feel like you really need to ask somebody who plays it quite a lot to think about that, and you have to think about it from like a completely different perspective to really know how this is going to feel against like the Condemned playstyle. Also, I'm just going to skip to this really quickly to comment on that. Lastly, we have done a balancing pass on the Onryo's add-ons, bringing her highest and lowest performing add-ons closer in line with the rest of the options. Doesn't tell us any of them, so chances are the Eerie add-on is probably dead. There is no way to know what they've actually done until the PTB launches and you get to play, which is so stupid. But I don't know why they can't just tell us, but who knows. In low MMR, where these changes will be hairless, trapper, tier oppression, and desperate need of nerfing. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no way that anybody who actually is worth their salt as a survivor actually gets condemned with these changes. I feel like I just don't think it'll happen. Like, in what world do you actually get condemned? Like, I don't know. What's up, Wolfsy, by the way? Welcome. Welcome. We're reading the DVD patch notes for the next patch. So far, these Onryo, like, I don't know if they really feel like a buff. It feels like a change more than a buff. Like, it just feels like she's gonna work differently, not better. So, I mean, it's like, it's the same thing as it was before, where nobody's gonna get condemned, so it's not like it's worse, but they might kill the condemned playstyle, which kind of sucks, because it was an interesting out-of-the-box playstyle that really is cool to have in the game, because every killer working the exact same is kind of shit. I do think that there's maybe something... No, I don't think so, because, like... I was gonna say, maybe there's something to do with, like, injuring survivors and leaving them kind of thing. But no, that won't be a thing, because you injure them and leave them, and then they just go deposit their tape. Because they know that, hey, I shouldn't heal until I deposit my tape. And then after I'm done healing, I'll have to grab a new one. Like, it's so silly. It's so silly. Like, it's going to be such an awkward thing. Like, because if you injure somebody and they're carrying a tape, they'll get a stack, right? Let's say they're at the fateful, the fucking, like, the God's gift that they're at 4 stacks, right? And you just need 3 stacks to get them condemned. So you injure them. That gives them a stack. Now they're up to 5. And you're like, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? All I need is 2 more stacks. So I can hook somebody and then down them, right? Let's go. And then they get themselves healed, and they heal right next to a TV. Because if you go up to them and you down them while they're not healed, then they get the 6 stack, and then it's over, right? If you can't condemn them. I mean, you can teleport to them after they get unhooked, but that'll only apply 3/4, and then you have a 15-second cooldown, which is enough time for them to go and run and grab a tape and then deposit it. It's like, the only way I see this happening is focusing one survivor and really making their life hell to try and do it. Like, getting them after they're hooked. Also potentially slugging people and then hooking somebody while somebody's on the ground with 6 stacks. You know what I mean? So say they're on 4, but, like, how do you even get them to 4 in the first place? Because they could just pick up a tape and then deposit it. Like, it's like, the only way I see the Onryo actually taking advantage of this is slugging somebody who's on 6 stacks and then going and chasing somebody else, hooking them and getting them up to 7. But chances are they might make it so that, like, you can't do it. And then hard camp them. Hugely possible and fun gameplay. Yeah, no, like, just genuinely, like, that, I think you are going to have to play like a absolute asshole to one survivor to get any kind of condemned kills. Like, and so, it's like, but it is something that the survivors have to worry about, so it will slow them down. But the thing is that this line makes the slowdown pointless. Like, literally, it doesn't need to kill them. It can just slow the game down. Except they added this. Literally remove this line, and then we can talk. But this literally just kills all of these changes. Like, it just makes them pointless. Because it doesn't even slow the game down at that point. Like, it's like 2 seconds. It's like, it's harder to fucking cleanse yourself from Nemesis's tentacle than it is to get rid of these tapes. Like, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And you know what Nemesis's tentacle actually gives him? It lets him not be an M1 killer. Like, that is his only power. And it's harder to get rid of that than it is to get rid of this condemned that can fucking kill you. Like, I mean, it makes sense because you like, it's harder to get rid of it. But, like, it's more of a slowdown, right? Like, this isn't going to slow the game down at all. Like, this is her whole power. Like, she's a shittier Wraith and a shittier Freddy. Actually, she's kind of a better Wraith. She's a better Wraith, a shittier Freddy. But she doesn't get the speed boost, though, actually, to be fair. I don't know. It's like she's like a mixture of Wraith and Freddy that doesn't quite work. The Nemesis thing, honestly, isn't a great comparison, because it makes sense that it's harder to get rid of his M1, like his anti-loop, because it's the only thing he has, versus trying to get rid of an instant death mechanic, because you should be able to get rid of the instant death mechanic, right? But it's like, I don't know. I think actually, to be fair to the devs, the condemn mechanic of Sadako is actually really hard to balance, because you have to create a mechanic where this like killer does something really skillful, like over a long period of time, to really make it fun, I think. Because like it has to be like a huge reward, but you want to make it so that the survivors have some kind of say in the matter, because otherwise it feels like shit just insta dying. So I feel like honestly it's just kind of a hard thing to balance, and maybe they should have just like went away from the condemn stack at all. I think that some devs could do it, but not these devs, because they're just not smart enough when it comes to balance. So I think condemn should just maybe just be done away with, to be honest. Like just a new mechanic for her instead, because it's just going to be really hard to make something that actually works well, and I don't think these devs are capable of it, sadly. Which just is what it is. But these changes, demanifestation, we've also made a few adjustments to the demanifested state. The unreal can no longer be stunned while demanifested. This is good. Like, this is just a buff. Like, there's nothing about that. It's not a buff. Chases are prevented when demanifested, making it more difficult to keep track of the unreal's position. The only reason that this makes it more difficult to keep track of her position is because of the survivor UI. That's literally it. So they are making balance changes around the UI, at least, which is kind of good. This also does help play with your food, but otherwise this is pretty pointless. And then demanifesting now removes bloodlust, similar to other killers' powers. So you can't demanifest in chase to tank a stun from a pallet. Like, that would be really interesting. Well, I mean, you can still, actually. But it will remove your bloodlust, which could be really bad depending on what loop you're running. Because some loops kind of require bloodlust a little bit. Like some really strong main building loops. But there is some interesting gameplay there with demanifesting when they're about to drop the pallet, and then like kind of going around the loop again. But to be fair, the demanifest I think slows you down enough that you won't be able to manifest again after demanifesting before they get back to the pallet. So it's only going to work if they were going to drop the pallet regardless. And then if they know that you're doing it, which I think she plays an animation, then they can just not drop the pallet and then run back around, and you can't actually unmanifest by the time they get back to the pallet. So it's kind of like a weird thing that like kind of works but kind of doesn't. But it's going to take good survivors to know that you're like demanifested to not drop the pallet. But if it becomes like a popular mind game, then they're going to know that it's a thing, and so they're going to like play around it all the time. So I don't think there's that much gameplay there. It's kind of just a nice quality of life thing, which is a buff, to be fair. I don't think this will really come into play that much, except when you like surprise a survivor. So I can see where they're trying to avoid a situation where the survivors get stuck needing to crisscross the map, constantly fucking around with tapes and making no progress on the gens. The problem is they've added a couple elements to avoid that happening when it would have only taken one of them. So in the end, common killer L. Yeah, that's how it feels. Like, this mechanic is completely dictated by the survivors. Like, it's completely dictated like the survivors in common killer L fashion. Like, your power is completely controlled by the survivors. Like, look at any other killer. Trapper. Hag. Skull Merchant. Singularity. Nemesis. I mean, it's like, I mean, I could name more, but it's like, they put all of the power in the survivor's hands. At least Skull Merchant gets something out of it when you do something bad, but all these other killers, it's like, they waste a little bit of time, of their time, to completely disable your power and waste a lot of your time. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's completely in their hands to fuck it up. Like, otherwise, your power is just, like, completely, like, so hindered. And that's exactly what this is. It's like they waste a little bit of their time to waste a fuckload of your time and completely destroy your power. And like that's just how killer works. Like, it's really sad, but it just is. It sucks that they don't tell us what the add-ons are. This is so shitty, in my opinion. Like, you know what they are. You are putting them into a PTB the next day. You obviously know what the values are. Please tell us. Please tell us. Like, these aren't patch notes. This isn't going straight into the game. This is going onto a PTB. Tell us. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't. Unless they just don't have any numbers of the values yet. But, I mean, that's not good because it's coming out tomorrow in the PTB. So, anyways, moving on to questionable change. We've all been in that situation before. A survivor runs towards their hooked friend, but the killer is nearby. So you both play a thrilling game of unhooked chicken. The survivor attempts to trick the killer into swinging so they don't get grabbed. Meanwhile, the killer tries to predict when the survivor may commit to the unhook to grab them and prevent the save. Beyond this scenario, leading to some very awkward gameplay, this also makes it possible for a face-camping killer to potentially defend the hooked survivor and put a second survivor into the dying state while they're at it. In this next update, we are removing grabs from unhooking survivors. In practice, this means that the awkward mind game when unhooking has been eliminated. Be warned, however, you are not safe when unhooking. Although you may proceed in rescuing the hooked survivor, the killer will still be able to hit you twice before you can make your escape. In most cases, you will trade your safety for your friends. So, this is a lot to unpack in stuff that they've said here. We've all been in that situation before. Yes, people do face camp, and hardcore proxy camp, and get grabs off the hook. The way that grabs work right now is that it is dictated. You do play this unhooked chicken game that they say. It is completely dictated by the survivors usually, but survivor or killer can get good enough at it to predict when the survivor goes for the grab and grab them. Like, it is actually possible to be consistent at it. But you have to be very good, and you have to practice it. It is something that you actually have to practice. Like, it is possible, though. The survivor is in the control seat because of the way that the rollback is, but the killer can take the control seat by being very good. So, it is a bad thing. I will say that. This is a bad thing, right? This is a bad mechanic, and it should be removed. But it should be removed when the game is better balanced. Not right now. Because right now, this is going to be really detrimental. Because the implications of this means that now nobody is going to be scared to unhook. Because while they do say you are not safe while unhooking, this is already true. Nothing has changed, right, in this regard. You are not safe while unhooking, though you may succeed. Your killer will still be able to hit you twice before you can make your escape. This is already a thing. The thing is that when the survivor does this, and they take those 2 hits, the killer loses. As they should. Because, the killer loses, because when they go for the, like, if survivors are trading over and over again, the killer is actually at a detriment. The killer loses in that situation. As they should, in my opinion, because it means that camping isn't a viable strategy, right? But the thing is that they're making, like, this is also a big issue at the end game, because it's mostly an issue at the end game. I think that overall it's kind of okay, because while gens are still being worked on and stuff, this will mean that nobody's scared to save, so you only ever need one person going for the save when the killer's camping. And the problem is that right now you have to camp to kind of have a chance in some matches. So you're basically forced to do this thing, and then you're punished more and more for it. Like, they're adding more and more mechanics that just fuck you over, right? I do think that this should be gone away from, and I do think it's a positive change. But the problem is that they're not going to change anything else along with it. So it's kind of like there's a system in place right now, right? Where you have to do this thing to be able to succeed. But they are taking away that thing to be able to succeed, but they're not changing it so you have any other way of succeeding. So you're forced to do this thing to win, but they're taking away the only choice that you have. So it's like you're forced to do it, but it doesn't, like, they're taking it away. So it's like, what is your new strategy? Is just to lose a lot of the time. They're not addressing the issue. They're just like, they're basically just addressing the things that killers do to circumvent the bad game design. It's like killers have started grabbing people off of hooks because it's a way to pressure the gens and still, like, camp and succeed. So now they're taking that away, so now you can't camp in any way, it just won't work, and you're not going to be able to pressure the gens because the gens are too fast, so it's like, they're taking away one of the only tools you have left. That's basically what it is, right? But I do think this is a good change. The main thing that this really sucks for is endgame, because now if two people run to a hook, it is an instant save, or is a guarantee save. Like, they've taken away, like, more and more. They are, like, making it more and more free for Survivor. Because now that the killer can't grab, it is completely free for two survivors to unhook somebody, unless you have Save the Best for Last. Like, it is completely free in the end game. There's nothing you can do to stop it. You don't have any choice. It just is completely free. That person is getting off the hook, and they're all getting away injured, right? And this matters if it's too far for you to catch up for the exit gate. And with Hope and Made for This, it usually is too far. But those are perks, to be fair. Hope is a bit different, but Made for This is a perk that you would use outside of the endgame as well. So this is really going to suck for endgame, because you basically have no choice. And if they're close enough to the exit gate, they get away for free. There's nothing you can do to stop it. The rest of the time, this is a good thing, I think. But the thing that's really going to suck is that when you're forced to do this camping, they only have to send one survivor to come and save, because they know that that one survivor will guaranteed get that unhook. Like, there's no choice. They are guaranteed going to get that unhook. What you can do is slug that person who's on the ground and then go after the unhooked survivor, and that's pretty much what you're going to have to do. Because the survivor can always run in last second now, and they can always get the save, right? Those forcing second stage stuff, that's never going to happen anymore, because the survivor can run in at the very last second and unhook, and there's no fear. They know that they will get that unhook, because you either hit them and they get injured, or you stand there. Like, you might as well hit them. You might as well down them and then chase after the unhooked survivor. So it basically takes away any killer's choice in the matter. You basically don't have a choice. You basically have to, like, hit the survivor, get the down, and then go for the second one. And then go for the unhooked survivor and try and tunnel. Because if you trade hooks, you lose. So it's like, oh, just don't camp in the first place. Sometimes you're forced to camp. That's the sad thing. I wish that it wasn't the case, because this would be a good change if that wasn't the case. Laughs and Bubba, yeah. You will have to... I mean, but Bubba, now with the way Bubba works, you don't get... they've made unhooks easier. So Bubba, sadly, will only get the down on one of them, unless you can block the unhook some way. So actually, two survivors will need to come for Bubba, actually. That is true. Because if he can focus on just one survivor, he can charge up his chainsaw before they get there, and then down them before they get the unhook. But if there's two survivors there, they get the unhook and they get away free. He has to trade, which is a losing game. So some killers are going to benefit from this a bit more. Billy as well. Like, being able to down the survivor. Like, if they have to come up. Anybody with insta-downs will need two people to save still. So this really hurts the more, like, M1 killers, to be honest. Also, people that can't do range damage, like Huntress, Trickster, they might be a little bit better off as well, because they can injure from afar and then down the person before they get to the hook. So this is really going to hurt people like Trapper and like Hag, you know, Wraith, stuff like that. So Freddy, I mean Pig, like just the more generic M1 killers that don't have some kind of power to insta-down or ranged or like fast way to catch up to survivors after injuring them, that kind of thing. So I think that this is negative because of the state that the game's in right now. But this is a positive change, but negative in the state that the game's in. And I want to say, okay, after this change, they'll do good things to kind of balance it out after, right? But they won't, because they added MMR and changed nothing. They like they added Made for this, did nothing. They made Dead Hard really strong, did nothing. Like they add these things for survivors and they do nothing. They added base BT and they did nothing. Like, they don't make the game better eventually. Like, you can't look at it. Like, I want to look at these changes from a, like, an overall big picture perspective. But the sad thing is that these changes aren't from a big picture perspective. And I've noticed this more and more, is that they buff and nerf perks to create a rotating meta. They're not trying to make things balanced. And you'll see what I mean later on with these perks. But they're not trying to make things balanced. They are going for a rotating meta design, right? Which is a design choice. But it's really hard to not look at these, like, changes in a vacuum. Because most of the time they are in a vacuum. They change the, like, they make one big patch. And then they're like, okay, let's let the game sit for 3 months. Or, well, a month and a half. And then we'll make another big patch. And kind of change the state the game is in. And they are pushing, like, they are trying to make it more healthy, I would assume. Like, I mean, I feel like you have to assume that, right? Even though they're failing, I assume they're trying to make the game healthier. But they're not. And these changes usually don't amount to anything good in the future. So, while this is a good thing, it is a bad thing, because nothing good will come of it, if that makes sense. Because of the state that the game is currently in. Which kind of sucks. So, but I do think that hook grabs are stupid. But right now, it's one of the only ways killers have to compete in certain matches. Which means that when that's gone, those matches are going to be out of your control even more so than they already feel right now. Which is really shit. And hook grabs are something that you have to be very skilled to actually do. So it kind of sucks that, like, you have to be very skilled to pull this off, and you need to pull it off sometimes to even have a chance, and they're removing it. So, but anyways, regardless of that, brand new part. In recent months, brand new parts have once again become a hot topic for discussion. This is true, actually. I'm not sure why. They haven't changed, but people have talked about them a lot. On their own, they can shave quite a bit of time from a generator, but this is compounded when multiple survivors bring one to a trial. Realize this can be frustrating for killers to face, so we have decided to rework this add-on. It's funny because the way that they've reworked this is that it's still compounded when multiple survivors bring one to a trial. It's actually still, like, this is when it's really strong now. And you'll see what I mean. When a brand new part is installed, you will face a difficult skill check. Only one now instead of two. Upon succeeding the skill check, the generator's required charges are reduced by 10, and the add-on is consumed. In terms of time saved, the updated brand new part will save 10 seconds compared to the previous 22.5 seconds, as this lowers the required charges for the effective generator. Any regression perks, which apply regression based on the generator's total charges, will have their effectiveness slightly reduced. So, what they're saying here is that a gen will not take 90 seconds to complete anymore. This actually won't give any progress on the generator. It will reduce the amount of progress required. So, it will reduce it to 80 seconds required. So, if you were kicking something for 10% with pop, it used to do 9 seconds. Now, if you kick something with 10 seconds... Well, actually, that's not true, because pop is based on current, not total. Let's say you kick something with total, and it does 10%. Like Jolt. Jolt's a great example. Jolt does 8%. So, that's like, what? Like 8.5 seconds or something like that? Now it'll be like 7.5 seconds, right? Because the total progress is back down to 80, what it used to be before. But the problem is, this isn't really a big deal. The only time this is really going to come into effect is on a 3-gen or something, right? Which is, again, one of the only ways that killers have to compete sometimes. So, but it's compounded when multiple survivors bring one to a trial, because they can install it on the same generator, making that generator require 70 seconds, 60 seconds, 50 seconds. So, what's the point of this line? We realize this can be frustrating for killers to face, so we have decided to rework this add-on. because it's compounded when multiple survivors bring one to a trial. To be fair, you have to all do it to the same generator. So this requires coordination, which most survivors are not going to do. You could say that they could do this in the pregame chat, which they actually could. Will they? Probably not. Let's be realistic, right? I like to be realistic with when I talk about this stuff. I'm not just saying that this is going to happen. This probably won't happen as solos, right? You could coordinate it. You genuinely could. You could load in and say, hey, I'm bringing a brand new part. Everybody use it on the last, like, on, you know, the generator in the main building and save it for last. That actually could happen. Will that happen? No, it won't. It won't happen. So this is more so when you have friends. If you bring 2 people into a trial, like say I duo with Fluffkins, we can both have a brand new part, and then we can both install it on the same generator. And then now that generator takes 70 seconds instead of 90. And so his 3-gen is a lot harder for him to hold. Like, that's really strong still. And I get it's an iridescent, but like this hasn't changed. It's still frustrating when multiple people bring one to a trial. But it is, you do need some coordination. But again, Survive with Friends gets another kind of buff, kind of. Because it's still kind of just as strong. It only saved 10 seconds compared to 22. But it's like, it's time that the killer can never get back, if that makes sense. That's the problem. It's time that the killer can never get back, which really sucks. But this is good overall, because it'll make it weaker for solos. It'll make it stronger for Swifts, but it'll make it weaker for solos, which is kind of nice. It's still better than a full gen completion. No, this is good. This is good. Like, it is... That is true, actually, yeah. Because it would be 22 times 4. So that is true, actually. If you look at it... If you look at both, like, in the same environment, then it is weaker. So, this is a good nerf. But, like, I find it ironic that they say that, oh, it's when multiple people bring one to a trial, it's very frustrating. So we decided to change it. But it's still frustrating when multiple people bring one to a trial. It's like, okay. Oh. So you kind of missed the point of what you said, but I do appreciate a nerf still, because brand new parts are broken, and they do need to be nerfed. But the way that they nerfed them kind of misses the point on what they actually said. But that is a good change. Overall, it's a good change. I think it's ironic the way that they've talked about it and the way that they've changed it, but it is a good change and a good nerf, because that is too strong. But we'll move on. I shouldn't hate on it too much, but I just think that their balancing decisions are laughable a lot of the time. Even if they're, like, good, they're, like, laughable in some way. Perks. So this is interesting. This is an interesting thing. And I think you'll see what I mean with the way that they're going for a rotating meta design instead of a balance. Like, they're not trying to balance everything. They're just trying to rotate new things in and out. That's it. Which some games do. Which is, like, a fine design decision, but I think it's less healthy for a competitive game. Like, a competitive game, I don't think can do that. I don't know. The only thing that stands out is that you can't lose the value of it, unlike the old add-on, but I'm not sure it'll matter in the vast majority of cases. Yes and no. I think that if you're smart about the way you use it, it can matter. I think that if you use it on one of the final gens, it's very different. But to be fair, you could save it for when you have the gen at 75%. And obviously, this only saves you 10 seconds instead of the 22. So, you can be smart about the way you used old brand new part 2, to be fair. So, if you're using in the same situation, which you should, yeah, I guess it doesn't really make a difference. It is more when more people bring one. Is going to make a bigger difference. But again, if more people brought one in the same situation, they could finish it. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I do like the thing about how you can, like, reduce the amount of time a generator actually takes. And I think it kind of fits with the idea of the part. So, I don't know. We'll see how this actually feels. I'll definitely be using some once it changes. So, I thinking about it, it is positive. Because if you look at them in the same situation, it's almost always going to be weaker. Right? The only time that it wouldn't be is when you use a lot of total charges and the generator like gets regressed back to 0. That's where it's going to be like stronger. But most of the time, if you're smart about your brand new part before, you're not going to use it when a gen like just starts or something like that, right? That's like the stupid way to use a brand new part. So to be fair, it is weaker in pretty much almost every scenario. So that is fair. Interesting considering their meta perk stance before. Well, I don't know if they'll admit to it, but it really, like, I've played enough games that this feels like a rotating meta design. Like, it feels like they're trying to rotate things in and out, not actually try and make everything balanced. Maybe they think they're trying to make everything balanced, but it's not how it feels. But that's just my opinion, right? There's no objective reality to that. It's just my opinion. Like, I think it subjectively looks like they're just trying to make a rotating perk design, or a meta design. But this update will also feature balance changes, many perks for both killers and survivors. There's a lot to cover, so we'll try and keep these brief. As always, the exact details are subject to change following feedback from the upcoming public test build. Firstly, coup de grace. Activating when generators are powered means this perk can only activate up to 5 times per match. Extended lunges can surely make a difference, but it's difficult to benefit from this perks when they are so limited. This is actually something I said. I actually said that coup de grace should either change in one of 2 ways. You either get all 5 stacks, like you get 5 stacks like normal, and you can activate it while lunging, which I didn't think they would do because it kind of sucks for console and mobile and stuff. So I didn't think that that's the direction they would go. Or I said, make it 10 instead. And they made it 10 instead, which I think this is a good change. Coup de grace was sometimes used. It's not a good perk, but it was sometimes used by people. Now it'll be used more. And this is a good way to change it. I genuinely did say this originally. Like, this is a good thing. Like, there's nothing objectively wrong with this. This is a good thing. So that's a good change. And I didn't think that they would go for the better option, in my opinion, because it kind of sucks for console and mobile. So it makes sense that they went for this one. And I'm happy that they went for something that I actually thought was a good idea, because I do think this is a good change. Claustrophobia. This perk also activates when a generator is powered. Since it only blocks locations within 32 meters of the completed generator, it's very likely this perk won't come into play unless you happen to be chasing a survivor nearby. This perk is dog shit. This perk is really, really bad. I don't think I've ever played against somebody using this perk. Like, since it was changed to this, like, the state it's in right now. Like, some people forget this perk exists. Like, it's so incredibly bad. So it's nice that this is getting a change. We are removing the range restriction from claustrophobia. Survivors will want to react quickly and find a pallet instead of a window when this perk is activated. This is cool. The problem is that I think this will still be bad, is it's only for a limited amount of time, and it's still only going to be really useful. It's only for 30 seconds. So it's 30 seconds every time a generator is completed. And generators are obviously only going to be completed 5 times. So you're going to get 2.5 minutes of windows being blocked in the match, guaranteed. The problem is that for those 2.5 minutes, is somebody going to be using a window? And after the first time it activates, they're going to know that you have it. And they can see on the Survivor UI whenever a gen is about to be completed. So they can know, okay, that generator is about to be completed for the next 30 seconds. I'm not going to be able to vault a window. So I'm not going to go to that window over there. I'm going to go to that pallet instead. So still kind of bad, in my opinion. I think that it's an interesting change. But sadly, with the Survivor UI and how strong pallets are, I don't think this will be that useful. Because you only get it 5 times in a match, and the survivors can remove the power that your perk has by just paying some attention. So, I don't know. I don't think this will be good. I think that this will be used more, and more people will use this. It's a fun perk. People enjoy using it. I can see why it's fun. I think this will be used more. I still think that it's not a great perk. I think that it's a decent perk on some killers. But I don't think this will really change that much. I think the people who used it in the past will use it more now, and I think they'll use it on the same killers. I don't think there's going to be any new developments with this. It's just going to be used a bit more, but not crazy amount. This, I think, will be used a little bit when the change happens, and then people will drop it because it's just not really worth it. And good survivors. Like, maybe at lower MMRs. I don't know. No, it's a fun perk. No, it is a fun perk. Don't get me wrong. I just think that it's not good. That's the thing. And the thing is that as killer, you can't afford to use fun perks and actually win a lot of the time. Like, so it's like, because like I want to use fun perks, but then I do, and then I get frustrated because you just get punished for it. So it's like you kind of need your perks to be fun and good to actually like warrant using them these days, which sucks. I wish it was more like Survivor, where a perk could just be fun. You know what I mean? But if it's not fun and good, it just feels frustrating. So, especially when survivors are in kind of the control of your power, because they can see when a gen's being done and just not go to a window, because pallets are so strong, they can easily loop for 30 seconds before, you know, the window gets unblocked. It does depend on the map and their location, but I do think this is a fun change, though. I just don't think it'll be very good. That's the thing. But I do think that this is a good way to change it, and it's fun. So I agree. I agree. Hangman's Trick. This perk is also incredibly bad. They're changing a lot of incredibly bad perks, to be fair. Coup de grace does have some use, but, I mean, this perk is also incredibly bad, like Claustrophobia. Like, nobody uses Hangman's Trick. Like, ever. Hangman's Trick finds itself in a tricky spot. Its range is fairly small, given that hooks are very common. However, increasing the range any further would cause it to reveal auras across nearly the entire map. Is this a problem? If there was a perk, okay, that made it so that whenever you picked up a survivor, you could see everybody's aura, would that be a problem? Like, genuinely think about a perk. Every time you pick up a survivor, you can see the aura of every other survivor. Just, you can see their aura. Would it be strong? Yes. Would it be a problem? Not really, because you go and hook the survivor, and now your info is changed. The survivors can see when the animation starts happening, so they know when your information is stopped, so they can then change up their plan. You will know what gens they're on, but barbecue does basically the same thing unless they go and hide. I guess it's easily counterable barbecue, so Hangman's Trick, if it did show every survivor's aura, it wouldn't be counterable. That's kind of the problem. It would just be, you get all the info, and then you can make decisions after. Survivors have to stay in the same location, so maybe a bit too strong. But I do think there is a middle ground you could easily reach, where it isn't going to survive. It isn't going to do the whole map. Honestly, it could just be, when you pick up a survivor, you can see the aura of every survivor for 4 seconds. You know what I mean? But there is already a perk that shows you the aura of survivors nearby. I mean, like, if it was like 4 seconds, chances are you're not going to get them to a hook that easily. Hangman's Trick, Iron Grass, Mag Grit. That could be fun. But sadly, this version of Hangman's Trick, not so good. I think that they could have really made this better. This is shit. But Hangman's Trick will become Scourge Hook Hangman's Trick. This perk now reveals the aura of survivors within 10 meters of a Scourge Hook whenever survivor is being carried. So basically, it's a Scourge Hook perk that you don't want to hook people on Scourge Hooks for. And you get 4 Scourge Hooks around the map. And you might think, oh, well, you can combo it with other Scourge Hook perks. It's like, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything. This perk does nothing for Scourge Hooks. It's a Scourge Hook perk that has no synergy with other Scourge Hook perks. It's a Scourge Hook perk that you would put on if you're not using Scourge Hook perks. Because Scourge Hooks don't increase the more Scourge Hook perks you have. It just means that when you do hook them on the hook, you get more value out of it because you're getting 4 perks from that one hook. But this doesn't do anything when you hook the person on the hook, which means that this has no synergy with other Scourge Hook perks at all. It's just a random perk that you would equip and then get 10 meters of view range around 4 areas on the map, which you can't control, are completely random, might be in the corner of the map. Scourge Hooks are already random and really frustrating. This is garbage. Like, this literally is the meme from the fucking Gravity Falls show. He looks at it, this is worthless. Like, this is nothing. Like, why? Why would you use this? Why would I equip this perk? Why? Like, 10 meters is a large radius, but it's randomly placed in probably useless locations, and it's information while you're carrying a survivor. So it can't replace your info perk, and it's not really worth a perk slot. This is worthless. That's worthless. There's no conversation where this has worth. Next, Territorial Imperative. Territorial Imperative, short aura reading duration. This is also a bad perk. I've tried to use this. I actually have probably used this more than I'd say like 75% of the player base. I have tried to use this perk. I actually think it's a fun perk, and I've tried to use it. It does not work. Territorial Imperative, short aura reading duration can make it easy to miss. That is true. There is a noise, I think, but it is short aura reading. Honestly, the noise is enough. The aura reading is kind of useless. Although you do get to know what survivor it is. But add on to that the fairly large distance requirement. Exactly. And it becomes very tricky to use effectively. Yes, but it's a basement camping perk. So they can't make it too strong. So I honestly think this should just be reworked. They obviously don't want people to camp the basement. They obviously don't want people to camp at all. So just make this do something different. Because no matter what state you put this in, you're never going to be able to buff this to a point where it's actually good, because then people will camp the basement with it and it'll be strong, which you obviously don't want. So just change this perk. Like, you're never, like, they have to look at these perks and think, is there a situation where this perk is strong and we're happy with it? And that will never happen for Territorial Imperative. Ever. Like, it just won't happen. So, I genuinely think this perk should just be changed. I don't think camping the basement has a problem, but I know that they do. So, it's kind of an issue, and I don't think the perk will ever become good. But, we've increased the duration of the aura reveal to 6 seconds. It's pointless. The aura revealing does nothing. We've also lowered the distance the killer must be from the basement entrance to 24 meters. That's nice. To give survivors an opportunity to sneak in for a rescue, we have increased the cooldown of Territorial Imperative to 45 seconds. So, that's kind of interesting because the aura reading is only really useful if they actually go for a counterplay, but there's no actual reason to go for a counterplay. 24 meters is a big deal, actually. The 8 meter reduction is nice. And it lines up with Devour Hope now, which is also really nice. So there's actually some interesting gameplay here. I don't think this perk will ever be good, though, because camping the basement just isn't that strong if you have to walk 24 meters away. Because they should be able to get the save in time. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to check if 24 meters is too... or is it short enough that you can actually get back in time to get it down. Because if you can just trade hooks and get Devour, that's kind of nice. But the thing is that the aura reading is useful if they do a counterplay, which they obviously the devs are intending for the survivors to do, where they go into the basement, then duck out of the basement. And they're like, ha ha ha, I didn't go in, so you wasted time coming back. But you'll have the aura reading to kind of counter that counterplay, to then know where they went, and 6 seconds is quite a long time. So it's actually kind of interesting. As much as I don't think that they'll ever let this perk be good, because they'll just nerf it if it becomes any good, this is interesting, and I will try this. I don't think it'll be that good, but I think it's fun to try. So, this is a good change, but I don't think this perk will ever be strong, because if it does become strong, they are just going to insta-nerf it, because it promotes camping. So, it's kind of question mark. Although they're kind of okay with proxy camping. But this is cool, because 24 meters does combo really well with Devour, and the aura reading means that when they counter it, you still get value from it. So, 6 seconds is quite a lot of aura reading. So I think there's some interesting gameplay going on here. Like this can be interesting. Next, Remember Me. This perk can help turn a match's killer's match. This perk can help a match turn around towards the end, but is currently not as effective as we'd like. Each time your obsession loses a health state, gain a token. Each token increases the opening of the exit gates by 6 seconds up to a maximum of 24 seconds. Was 4 seconds for a maximum of 16 seconds. If I'm not mistaken, it didn't used to be health states. It used to be basic attacks. Let me check. No, it is. Oh, they changed it to health states a while ago. So, it's just the seconds increase then. It's just a seconds increase, which is a good thing. Like, it's just a, you know, stronger perk. I think that it could use a little bit of a power increase, but I think that the way it worked currently is cool. So I think that that's interesting. I think that this is a nice little buff for it, and it'll just be a bit stronger, which is cool. There's not really much to say there. Just, you know, could be more useful. Endgame builds, a little bit more power, and it kind of sucks that to fight in the endgame, to have any kind of chance, you need to use perks, but I think it's interesting. Next, Hex Crowd Control. Having a window block behind a survivor after they vault it can come in handy in certain circumstances, but in many cases, survivors can simply outlast the entity blocker. This doesn't create much pressure on the survivors to find and cleanse the Hex Totem. This is actually a really, like, good line of text from them. This actually completely understands why Hex Crowd Control isn't that good, because since it was only 14 seconds, if it's on, like, a jungle gym, they can usually loop the jungle gym and sometimes get an extra use out of the window, and then it's blocked again. So it doesn't really put that much pressure on them to cleanse the totem. Like, everything they said is actually true. So that's really a plus. They actually understand why this perk is not that good. We are increasing the duration of entity blockers caused by Hex Crowd Control to 60 seconds. Survivors will want to find and cleanse the associated Hex Totem before it's too late. This is good. I mean, this makes Hex Crowd Control very scary. You basically get one use out of every window, and then, you know, that's it. So, but it is still a Hex Totem, which is dangerous. But it's a Hex Totem that the survivors want to cleanse immediately as the game starts. So it can slow them down a little bit and give you some early game chases if they don't find it instantly. I do think it still runs into the problems of Hex Totems to start with, which is kind of an issue. But I do think that it is good. Like, this is a good change. But it does still run to the problem of Hex Totems, which is they're just going to get cleansed and it's a waste of a perk slot. So I think that my idea for Hex Totems is smart, and they should change Hex Totems to be this way. But I mean, like, my idea for Hex Totems is that you have a 5th Hex slot that every killer gets to put 1 Hex Totem into, and that's all the only perks, like, that you can put into that slot is your Hex slot. So that way that survivors always have a secondary objective of destroying the totems, and that way killers have to, like, basically it's like the survivors make a choice of, do we want to risk their their 5th Hex perk getting value, or do we want to rush the gens? You know what I mean? Like, or do we want to rush the gens, or do we want to play it safe and get rid of their 5th Hex perk? You know what I mean? I also don't think that survivors should know which totem is lit, because it slows down the cleansing process a lot. They should have to cleanse all the totems to kind of disable the 5th perk. But that's a big overhaul that obviously is too much for these devs to do. But I think that would be a cool idea, though, is that you have a 5th perk slot that you can equip a Hex Totem in that kind of complements your build or complements your character. And survivors always have this decision of, okay, do we want to waste the 50 seconds and the time searching for these totems, or do we want to, and it also makes it really interesting, because if they spend time searching and not just destroying them whenever they find the totems, then it is extra slowdown. So it's like a choice of, okay, do we think they have an early game Hex, or do we think they have a late game Hex? Because if they have a late game Hex, then we can waste time right now just, you know, finding them naturally. If they have an early game Hex, well, fuck, we should search for it. You know what I mean? Really interesting gameplay and, you know, thought-provoking decision-making from the killers and the survivor, and build choices and extra slowdown so that way gens, but no, that's too good of an idea, obviously. So let's just forget that that's a thing, because that'll never happen. Anyways, Trail of Torment. Trail of Torment allows the killer to hide their terrorists and sneak up on survivors. Since it disables the next time a survivor loses a health state, there often isn't much pressure on the survivors to venture over and stop the generator from regressing. Yeah, it's a perk that you kick a gen, they know that you have it because it all goes yellow, and then you get 1 hit, and that's it. So, pretty meh perk. To make this perk more threatening, Trail of Torment will only deactivate when the affected generator stops regressing, not when a health slate is lost. Hooray! This is a good change. Now, Trail of Torment actually works like it was always intended, where the survivors are pressured to, oh shit, the killer's undetectable, we have no idea where he is, let's go touch that gen. He might be at the gen. Oh shit, panic. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. You know what I mean? That's exactly how Trail of Torment should work. You know what I mean? Like, and like, there's counterplay, but the counterplay has counterplay. Like, so it's, you know, thought-provoking gameplay. So that's cool, and this is a cool change to this perk. So, looking at the killer perks as a whole, what do we look like? This doesn't really fit into the rotating meta thing, like I said. None of these things seem very strong, if you've noticed. It's all weak perks, or very weak perks, getting a slight boost in power, and that's it. There's no reworks, there's no big changes, it's just slight boosts in power to all of these really weak perks. That's it. And no nerfs, though. No nerfs. Does a gen stop progressing at 0? It does, actually. Yeah, that is true. That is true, actually. Is that how it actually works already? It does actually stop progressing. I know this because I use surveillance. And surveillance... stop it. Where is Trail of Torment? T. Oh, you can use the search feature now. I forgot. Trail of Torment is stops regressing. So yeah, it's the same thing. So so did they make it so that it? Did they make it so that it's only when it stops regressing? Because right now it's also when a survivor is injured or put into the dying state. Only deactivate when the affected generator stops regressing. So, if it hits 0%, then it'll stop. Or somebody taps it. So, that's interesting. So yeah, with the killer perks, nothing is nerfed. Nothing is nerfed. But it's all just very slight boosts of power. So, none of these things are going to become meta. I think that coup de grace will be used a little bit more in the exact same situations. Claustrophobia will be fucked around with a little bit and then dropped because it's kind of fun but bad. Well, not bad, but it's just not valuable enough to waste a perk slot on it. But it is fun. Hangman's Trick is literally garbage. Some people, for like the first couple days after the patch, will try and use it as a meme and then realize, wow, this is dog shit. Unless the 10 meters is more impactful than I think, but I really don't think it is. Even if you get that info, it's useless info. So it's like, Territorial Imperative, I think, has a little bit of interesting basement camping potential, but I don't think it'll be that strong. It might be, like, a little bit fun and, you know, have some games where it works, but I think that it's very, like, situational, and I think that it just isn't going to be usable except when you build around it completely, and if it becomes too strong, it'll just get nerfed into the ground, so I think the Remember Me will still be used in the exact same way. It won't be much better. It just is going to be good for endgame builds. It's not going to be changed. It's going to be used in the exact same way. It's just a slight number increase, so not really. Hex Crowd Control, I do think will be used a little bit more. A little bit of Undying, a little bit of Hex Crowd Control on Bubba or Billy is an interesting, different way instead of using Bamboozle. Throw a little Pentimento in there and maybe a little Plaything, and now you got something going on. You know what I mean? Like, so I do think that this one actually probably has the most potential. Also, Trail of Torment, actually. These two, I think, are very interesting. Does it show up? You've got enough info to know exactly where they are. No, that's true, actually, yeah. If it's on the game, I mean, you basically know where everybody is. So maybe that's true. Maybe Mad Grit, Hangman's Trick, Game Offering, Agitation, Iron Grasp. There you go. There's a situation where Hangman's Trick can be useful. Or maybe Midwitch or RPD as well. Like, you basically need to use a map offering to make this actually useful. Like, so maybe though. But there is some fun to be had in that, I guess. That's kind of fun. But these two are really the winners here. I don't think they're going to be meta, but I do think there's some good builds you could potentially make with these, right? And especially fun builds. I think that this is more the meta thing. I think Trail of Torment will be more fun, but I do think there's some good fun builds you can make with this. So overall, positive, but not positive enough because killer perks are kind of in a shit state right now. So I would have liked some more things that can actually, you know, be a little bit meta and like actually help against the current like meta of the game because it's a little bit shit. But these are all positive changes. I mean, like Hangman's Trick is a bit of a laughable one. Claustrophobia I don't think is enough, which kind of sucks. But all the rest of them I think are actually good, well-minded changes. I think that Remember Me just needed seconds. I think Crowd Control faces the problem of Hex Totems, which obviously you can't just fix in a day. So I think that that is what it needed instead. I think Trail of Torment is exactly what it needed. I think Territorial Imperative is interesting, but I think it's kind of what it needed. I think Claustrophobia is a fun change. Makes it, you know, an interesting perk now instead of completely trash. And I think Coup de Grace is a good change. I mean, I even suggested it. So overall, killer perk changes, actually good. Nothing is going to be meta or help against the current meta of the game, which I think is disappointing, but good. And I don't think there's anything that killer needs to have nerfed right now, and they didn't nerf anything. So this is all positive, honestly. I do think this is all positive. So that's a plus. Going down, you might see what I mean about rotating meta, because this is where it gets a little interesting. Survivor perks. Prove thyself. So, very meta. So, let's see what they do with this one, right? This perk grants a repair speed bonus for each survivor within a small range, allowing survivors to negate the penalty for working on a generator simultaneously. So one of the most powerful things that survivors can do, this perk makes even more powerful, for some reason. Though it is just as efficient to work on separate generators, there is still tremendous value in being able to finish a specific generator very quickly through co-op repairs. Yes. Very, very strong, tremendous value. Like, because you only need to finish 5 out of 7 generators. You don't need to finish all of them. You just need to finish 5 of them. And the killer cannot pressure them once they're done. That's the big thing. That's why survivors, like, tunnel gens. That's why they finish gens even if it means them going down. Because once the gen is done, the killer cannot revert that progress. So it's like checkpoints, basically. They are guaranteeing their checkpoint. So when you're rushing checkpoints, that's very strong. Because you rush to the checkpoint, and now you have a second to recover, and then rush to the next checkpoint, and then recover, and then rush to the next checkpoint. So it's just very efficient gameplay. So Prove Thyself makes your efficient gameplay more efficient. So it's very, very strong. And it has no opportunity cost. And it's just very strong. To bring this perk in line with other options, we are reducing the repair bonus to 10% per nearby survivor, was 15. So it's 10% less speed. That's it. Basically. For 2 survivors. 15% less speed for 3 survivors. You still get 20% or 30% for 3. So 4% or 4 survivors on 1 gen really never happens. 3 survivors on 1 gen does happen though. So this is still strong. I don't think that this is really a big enough nerf. But the thing is that Survivor has so many good perks that people will probably still use this because there is so many good Survivor perks. And then there's this line of text. We have also removed the blood point bonus for co-op repairs. Everybody is so mad about this. And it is hilariously delusional that people think that this is a problem. Oh my god, my blood points. People are literally, like, throwing tantrums about this. I'm not even joking. I looked at Twitter. There is, like, hundreds of people complaining about how stupid it is that this got changed. This is what they're all talking about. And it's like, are you dumb? Are you actually dumb? Because why do you want a perk? Like, they're removing blood points from perks for a reason. Because if they don't, they force you to use those perks to progress. It is less diversity. It is less fun. If they remove these blood point bonuses, then they can increase blood point gains across the board. And then you can use whatever perks you want. Right? It's like, will they do that? Yes, they actually have. They've actually shown that this is something they are willing to do. So, like, it's not like killer changes where it's, here's a big nerf, we're not going to give you anything. The blood point thing, they actually have increased blood point gains across the board. Blood points are pretty easy to get now. Why would you not want this removed? Like, this is a good thing. Because it means you are not forced to use this perk to progress. Like, you are not forced to use this perk to get a good amount of blood points. What the fuck is wrong with people? What the fuck is wrong with people? In a game that is in the state that it is in, like DBD, how the fuck can you look at this and complain about this. Like, this is what you want to complain about. It blows my mind. It actually blows my mind. It's like, yes, they took away extra blood points. I want to point out, I have used this perk as well. I have used this perk. It gives fuck all blood points. It's not even anything. Like, it's barely noticeable amounts of blood points. Like, I've tried to use this perk specifically for blood points. It gives fuck all. Fuck all. Like, why is this an issue? Anyways, people are stupid. This is not a big enough nerf, in my opinion. I think Prove Thyself should be completely changed, but Survivor perks, there's so many strong options that I still think this won't be used, because there's just so many strong options that survivors are just gonna, like, fix to something else. 5 blood points today, 5 blood points tomorrow, soon all the blood points. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. This is what I mean about rotating meta. Now, looking at it, to be fair, there's only 2 perks that I think really fit into the rotating meta thing. This is one of them, because this is ridiculous. And this is also what I talk about reading like a fucking Survivor main. Because, holy shit, this actually frustrates the shit out of me. Blast Mine. Very strong perk. Very strong perk. And it's getting a buff. Few things are more crushing. Why is it getting this buff, you might ask? Well, few things are more crushing than installing Blast Mine on a generator only for the killer to ignore it for so long that your trap expires. That sucks. When the killer actually, like, counterplays your perk so you don't get value from it. Like, they play it really smart and they avoid the timer because they know you have Blast Mine. So, instead, let's just make it last 120 seconds instead of 45. So now the killer's just basically guaranteed to get hit by it, or they lose the generator. So it's just guaranteed value now. Just guaranteed. There's no counterplay. No counterplay for the killer. There wasn't very much counterplay before, but we removed even the little counterplay that it had left. So now you do a gen, which is your objective anyways, and then you get a bomb that you can then place on a gen that the killer has to get hit by, because otherwise the gen gets finished, because 120 seconds is, you know, long enough that you can just finish the fucking generator if they don't kick it. So they kick the generator, they get hit by your bomb, and they waste 8 seconds or so. It's like, well, it's like 6 to 8 seconds. So you do your objective, and then you create a bomb by doing your objective that the killer has to get hit by to stop you from doing your objective, that then wastes the killer's time for like 6 to 8 seconds to let you do your objective. What the actual fuck? Like, what the actual fuck? And the reason for this buff? Because it's really crushing when this, like, the killer outplays your perk and you don't get value from it. Like, that sucks, man. That sucks. It's almost like all the killer perks in the game. Almost like all the killer perks. Just why? Yeah. Yeah, just why? Just why? And you know what's funny, actually? And Fluffkins, you have a better memory than me. Didn't I say when this got buffed, or when this got changed so that it actually had a duration that the killer could avoid, like you could place a blast mine and you lost value if the killer didn't kick it? Didn't I say, oh wow, it works like all the killer perks now? Whoop-de-doo. Like, now it's just a killer perk. Congratulations, survivors, you got a killer perk. Didn't I say that? Didn't I legitimately say that? And now they've made it that it's not a killer perk, because you get guaranteed value. Like, it's insane, man. Like, how can people look at something like this and not say bias? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is a joke. Like, this, like, this, if they posted this as an April Fool's thing, I would genuinely be like, oh yeah, that's pretty funny. Like, that's insane, man. That's insane. Insane. And it's such a fucking stupid perk, too. Like, yeah, it's fun for the survivor. It's literally dumb as fuck for the killer. There's nothing you can do against it. And now, there's even more nothing you can do against it. This perk is a joke. This is laughable. This is shameful. Like, the fact that this is even going into the game. Like, it's pathetic. Nothing is more crushing than playing Onryo and not getting condemned kills changes when. Exactly. Literally exactly. Like, jokes aside, exactly. It's like, where do they ever say something like that for killer? Like, oh man, few things are crushing than, like, trying to use your ability and the survivor's turning it off. That's crushing, dude. So, we've actually changed it so survivors can't turn off your ability anymore. You always get to use your ability. Like, because, you know, that's a lot more fun. It's like, where's that change? When are we getting that change? That'd be cool. Anyways, this literally just, like, I read that and I genuinely was just like, wow, I want to stop playing this video game now. Wiretap. Wiretap is in a similar position to Blast Time, but we also wanted to take the opportunity to standardize how these sort of perks work. That kind of sounds like they're going to add more, actually, which I wouldn't be a problem with as long as they're not powerful. Like, Blast Mine is just stupidly powerful. You do a gen, you get a bomb that the killer has to stop, because it's your objective, and then it punishes them, and you get more time to do your objective. Like, it just is a gen rush perk that you get for rushing gens. Like, it's insane. It's insane. Wiretap, I have no problem with. Like, there is some, like, I would like to know when you're being wiretapped, so that way the killer has counterplay, but overall, Wiretap's kind of okay. Because you should kick the gen or make it start regressing in some way anyways, so I don't mind Wiretap. And if they add more perks that are similar to this, as long as it's not super powerful like Blast Mine, I don't really care. I think it's a good thing. They're fun perks, but it would be nice if they weren't overpowered. We increased the duration of Wiretap to 120 seconds. Long time, but you can kick it, so it's not a big deal. The only problem is that you don't know when you're getting Wiretapped. This is kind of the same issue that I had with it before, but now it's even more so, is that you don't know when you're getting wiretapped, so you can't really do the counterplay of kicking the gen because you don't know that it's happening. So it's like imagine if somebody is like stealing from you very slightly. You'd think, oh, well, put your money somewhere safer, but you can never find out that you're being stolen from. So you never know that slowly but surely you're just losing money. It's like, well, how are you supposed to do the thing to keep your money safe? You know what I mean? Like, it's just slowly dwindling. Yeah, I mean, there's no way to know that you should do the counterplay, so there's nothing you can do. We've also normalized the activation requirements and text descriptions between Blast Mine and Wiretap, meaning Wiretap will activate after 50% worth of generators pairs was 33%. I actually don't think this was needed, but they're normalizing it. I don't know. Blast Mine / Wiretap meta stonks would increase so hard, but that's opportunity cost. You know what I mean? You get this combo that you have to use 2 perk slots on. Now all of a sudden, there's opportunity cost to it. You know what I mean? Because if you're not getting value out of it, that's a lot of your perks. Like, so I wouldn't even mind that. Because, like, now half of your build is in this one ability. You know what I mean? And after the first time, because you apply the bomb at the same time as the wiretap, you would then know when it's Blast Mine. So you'd be like, oh, fuck, I'm wiretapped around this gen, but I can't kick it because it has Blast Mine. You know what I mean? So you could avoid it. The problem is that you can't avoid it because it lasts 120 seconds. So, yeah, cool, thoughtful gameplay? Nah, just uncounterable bullshit that the killer has to deal with and cry about. And if they do cry about it, just tell them they're bad, lol. Like, that's, like, those are the choices, basically. And they chose the latter one. Anyways. Moving on from that, I think this is, like, I think this is still a very good perk, but I don't think many people will use it because there's just so many good survivor perks. This is definitely going to be used more. It's crazy good. I think that this will be used quite a bit, and I think that survivors are really going to enjoy bullying killers with this for blast mines. Yeah, this is really going to suck. Wiretap, I don't think this will be used that much more, to be honest. It's kind of nice, but it's not, like, that useful because the killer can remove it, and so I don't think this will really change much. I think some people use it because it's fun, but it's really not that big of a deal. Honestly, when I've used wiretap, it feels like the gen just gets completed a lot of the time, and so it kind of sucks. It's just like, oh, well, I placed my wiretap, and then we completed the gen, so nothing happened. But next, Saboteur. The hook-breaking heroes out there will know that even a fraction of a second can make the difference between sabotaging the hook and getting hit. When you swing in for the save, you want to get the job done as quickly as possible. We've reduced the time it takes to sabotage a hook without a toolbox to 2.3 seconds, was 2.5. We've also adjusted the cooldown for the perk to be 60 seconds, was 60 seconds. So tier 1 and 2 versions of the perk can be used more frequently. So this is pointless. Well, it's not pointless, but it's basically pointless. Most people have most perks. I mean, like, it's more about not having a perk than having it at tier 1 and 2, because it's so easy to level up perks now that having things at tier 1 and 2 isn't really an issue. It's more about having the perk at all. The thing is that nobody uses Saboteur, because you need the timing of destroying a hook to be a certain speed to be able to destroy it, even if the killer is going to stop you. And an item slot is a lot less opportunity cost than a perk slot. So everybody's just going to rather go for a toolbox. The only way that this perk gets used is if the 2.3 seconds is fast enough that the killer cannot actually stop you. That is the only way this gets used. I don't know what the recovery is of a killer's attack animation. I can maybe check. So, does it say? Trying to check the wiki. Unless this makes it so that you can't stop the unhook, it will not matter. So the calculation, 0 tokens is 2.7 seconds. I was looking to say the best for last. So yeah, so this won't do anything. This perk won't get used anymore, in my opinion. You just rather equip a toolbox, and you can equip Alex's toolbox with add-ons, and the killer literally has no counterplay against it. So this won't get used. This won't get used. Wait. Did I say it was 2.7? Wait a second. That is more, though. But that would mean that the Saboteur already works, which it doesn't. So this can't be right, then. Because Saboteur would already be uncounterable, then. Which isn't true. Can I look at Alex's toolbox? Does that mean that Saboteur is already uncounterable, though? But it's not. I swear Saboteur is not uncounterable right now, though. I don't know. The only way this perk gets used, though, is if this is fast enough that the killer can't counter it. If 2.3 seconds is fast enough. Otherwise, it literally does not matter. And they know what they're doing, too. Because that 0.2 seconds is not going to matter about the killer reaching the hook while you're carrying them. It's going to matter if the killer's already on top of you, and you can just do it right in front of his face. Because if you're going to go for a Sabo build, you're just going to bring a toolbox instead. The only way that you aren't going to bring a toolbox is if this lets you do it uncounterable, which would really suck. If that is true, then this is going to be a very big problem. But I don't know. Aura reading can be handy, but there's only so many totems to go around. Clairvoyance will now activate upon blessing a totem in addition to cleansing. This is nice, but I don't really think many people are going to use this because the aura reading is just not that helpful. When you have so many strong survivor perks and you don't really need aura reading, it's like, what's the point? You could say, oh, well, you can use it to find gens, but you can just use Deja Vu and get a repair speed bonus. So it's like, I don't think anybody's going to use this. It's a good change, But because now you can combo with Blessing and have a little bit of like synergy there and make different builds with it, but it's just the same. Like, it's not gonna change anything. Breakout. Breakout helps you save a friend by putting yourself in harm's way. With the spacing between hooks, it can be very difficult for a survivor to wiggle out before getting hooked. Though we don't want this to be too common, we found that it wasn't coming into play too often. Yeah, I mean, you don't want survivors to wiggle out after getting hooked because the killer's already done the hard part of getting the down. If the survivors try really hard or make a really good play, then the survivor wiggling is fair, but you don't want it to be too easy, so hopefully, you know, they understand that. It does seem like they're being a little bit more on the air of caution, but I'm scared about this because I don't know if this is actually counterable or not, but we'll see. Breakout now increases the wiggle speed of the carried survivor by 25%, was 20, so it's not a big difference, only 5%. That will go a long way over a long span of time, but usually you're not there for a long span of time. And it also got a little bit of a nerf as well. However, to make this more risky, Breakout now activates within a 5-meter range instead of 6 meters. So it's nice that they're being very careful with this, because this could be very, very dangerous in a survive with friends, or just a survivor who's really apt about saving their teammates. And they can be, because gens are so fast that they can afford to run around and do nothing a lot of the time. So it's nice that they're being careful with this. I like that Breakout's getting a little bit of love, because it's a perk that I like a lot. And I don't think that it's getting buffed too crazy well. I think that this is still going to be hard to activate, especially with the 5 meters thing. So it's a little bit more dangerous, but it's a little bit faster. But I don't think the speed will come into play a lot. Because even when I do wiggle builds and try and have somebody breakout me, it doesn't really happen. And the killer can usually know that breakout is happening. So I don't think this really changes much. You might get some survivor friends trying to play around with this just to have some fun. But I don't think it'll happen, like, much. I don't think many people use this. This, however, is a fun, interesting perk. Buckle Up. You can't always be guaranteed that a survivor will leave the killer will leave a survivor on the ground in the first place. So, when a perk like Buckle Up comes into play, we want to make sure that it is impactful. We have revisited this perk and given it a new effect. This is a good line of text. The problem is that like a survivor has so many perks like this, and by impactful shouldn't be crazy good uncounterable value. It should be impactful, not crazy good and uncounterable. But that seems to be what they mean when it comes to survivors. So upon healing a survivor from the dying state, both you and the heal survivor gain the endurance status effect for 10 seconds. So yet another anti-slug mechanic. It seems like they went away with Unbreakable at base, and now they're just making crazy amounts of anti-slug mechanics, like made for this and stuff like this. I mean, this is just better than made for this, absolutely, but you don't get the speed. So now there's 2 perks that give you anti-slug mechanics, but they both have differing effects. Nobody's going to use this because they'll just use made for this instead. But it's an interesting anti-slug perk. But you can just use Unbreakable, and that will give you more value because you can be on the ground. And you can use it even in matches where the killer isn't going for a full slug. Whereas this is pretty much only useful when you're going for a full slug. So I don't think this will be used that much, but it's a very scary effect. If there wasn't already crazy anti-slug perks in the game, 100% this would be used. But because there's already crazy anti-slug perks in the game, there's not really much need for this. You can just use made for this. You can just use Unbreakable, and they will do the exact same thing, but better, and also give you value outside of a slug. So, very strong mechanic. Not actually going to be that useful, though, because there's just better perks. But that comes into the problem of Survivor just having really strong perks. I mean, this is a very strong perk. If you look at this by itself, okay, so anytime anybody gets slugged, I know that I can run in for the save at any time. Also, that's funny, actually. They don't even talk about this, but Buckle Up is useless now because of the Survivor UI. This part, Buckle Up should just be changed, absolutely. It should just be changed to something completely different. This is pointless, actually, now that I think about it. Because it's giving you an effect that Made for This already has, and the default part of Buckle Up is useless because of the Survivor UI now. I completely forgot about that. It actually does nothing. Oh, wait, no, they changed it, didn't they? When they added Survivor UI, Buckle Up got an ability, didn't it? It got, like, aura reading, right? Yeah, well, when you and a survivor heal from the dying state to injure, both you and the healed survivor gain an, killer's aura for a duration of 10 seconds. The healed survivor also gains a 10% haste status effect. Okay, I forgot about that. Why not? Why not? Why not throw a little bit of haste on there? It's like, I forgot about that. It's still just not going to be used. Even though it's incredibly strong, it's not going to be used because you can just use Unbreakable or Made for this. So, very strong perk in anti-slug situations, but there's just better options because Survivor just has crazy good perks. Smash Hit. When it comes to exhaustion perks, Smash Hit isn't all too popular. Stunning the killer with a pallet is sometimes easier said than done. Yeah, I would agree with this. It's not that it's sometimes easier said than done, it's that once the killer knows you Smash Hit, they can avoid it, and your play kind of becomes very telegraphed. So, to make Smash Hit a more interesting choice, we have reduced the duration of the exhaustion status effect to 20 seconds. This is interesting, because this is the first exhaustion perk that is not at 40 seconds. So, you can use it more often, which is interesting. But will it actually come into play that often? Because a lot of the time you get chased once from start to finish, you know what I mean? Now, a little bit more gameplay. So that's interesting. You're not really going to be able to recover from the exhaustion. This is interesting change. And I do like the idea of like changing up exhaustion perks in little ways, more than just where you get your speed boost from. The idea of reducing the duration is interesting, because that means now you can use Smash Hit more often, but are you really going to get value out of it more often? So this is an interesting change, and I don't think this is game-breaking. Smash Hit is more of the telegraphed, less good exhaustion perks, so it's kind of like head-on in that way. So it's kind of interesting. But next, Spine Chill. Before the visual terror radius was introduced, Spine Chill was often used by deaf or hard of hearing players to give them some sort of indication of the killer's terror radius. When Spine Chill was reworked, we made sure to keep this element unchanged until a proper accessibility setting could be introduced. Now the visual terror radius is available, we are removing the terror radius visualization aspect of this perk. A+. Doesn't matter. Now that they have the visual terror radius, they can remove it, so it makes it less convoluted and less confusing with the visual terror radius, because that has nothing to do with Spine Chill. So that's just a nice cleanup of the game. Not a big deal. Next, killer tweaks. Keeping up our recent efforts to regularly review and tweak various killers and their add-ons, we have a small set of adjustments making their way to this update as well. As a reminder, these are meant to be minor changes and do not replace full-scale killer updates, kind of like the Onryo rework kind of thing. The Executioner. The Executioner has a built-in mechanic to prevent him from camping survivors in one of the cages. If he comes within 5 meters of a cage, he will disappear and reappear elsewhere on the map. This range is fairly small, which means the killer can stay nearby and wait for a survivor to move in for the save. To make this mechanic a little more effective, we are increasing its range to 10 meters. I don't think that this is really needed. I think that my idea for a change is much better, that he just shouldn't know where the cage goes, because the cage should spawn the farthest away from all the survivors to waste more of their time, and, like, that's a combo change that would, like, make him so much better, where caging people actually has a purpose, and you could make it so, like, my idea for changing Pyramid Head is actually fucking amazing. Like, it genuinely is, okay? I usually don't toot my own horn, but my changes for Pyramid Head are a fucking great idea. But will they happen? No. Because part of it was added to the game, everybody complained. Because they didn't do the full thing, but people don't have an idea for the big picture. But I don't blame them, because the devs don't really have an idea for the big picture either, and they usually only do part of a change, and they leave the rest of the picture fucking torn up and in the shredder somewhere. So, but, like, if they made it so that he applies chains on every hit, okay? And then when you cage somebody, it spawns as far away from other survivors as possible, right? Like, as far away. So that way it's a slowdown mechanic, it's a speed up mechanic for you, and you won't know where the cage went. So you can't tunnel, you can't proxy camp, because you don't know where it went. So if you find it, well, you found it. They should have worked harder to save that person. They should have saved him faster. You know what I mean? If you randomly find it, then you randomly find it. If you have info on where all the survivors are, then you have info on where all the survivors are, and you can make an educated guess. Kind of like Pinhead. Like, that's a skill that you are using, and your perks are synergizing. Like, you are being a smart player in that situation. And they could keep the 5 meters. It doesn't need to be increased to 10 in that situation, because, like, But I understand that they don't want people to tunnel off the cages. But if you don't know where the survivor is, then it's pretty fucking hard to tunnel off the cages. And if you do, it's kind of because you played well and you know where they are. But I do think that this change is overall a good thing, because Pyramid Head shouldn't be used to tunnel. But the thing is that they're not going to give him any other changes to make him better as a killer. They're just going to make it harder for him to tunnel, which will make him weaker, and that's not really what he needs. He needs to be made more fluid, and like his ability actually has a purpose other than just anti-loop. So I think this is a good change, but it kind of sucks because he's not going to get anything else, sadly, and his power is going to stay out kind of irrelevant other than tunneling, and it's just going to make it harder for his power to tunnel. So it's like the one use that your power actually has is kind of pointless. Sorry, that was in-game. The Spirit. We have made a number of add-on changes in store for the Spirit. Mother-Daughter Ring. This add-on, which increases the Spirit's movement speed while using Yomoka's Haunting, is currently far stronger than we'd like. To bring it closer in line with other add-ons, we've reduced the movement speed bonus to 25%. Was 40%. This add-on was only useful when you actually comboed it with other things, or you were a very good Spirit player. And now it's just worse. And this is an iridescent. That's pretty rough, man. Pretty rough. Like, you can't see scratch marks and you only go 25% faster. And that's along with Spirit's base nerfs a while ago, which makes her quite slow without any kind of speed buff. So, kind of rough. I think it'll still be strong, but not very strong, which kind of sucks because Spirit isn't in, like, the greatest of spots. She's still good, but she's not that good. The other add-on that people comboed this with is Dry Cherry Blossom, which is a purple, so it's an iridescent and a purple to give you a very strong use of your power. But I do admit that it is unfun to play against, because it is. I mean, Cherry Blossom Mother-Daughter is incredibly unfun to play against. But they made Spirit unfun as a killer in general, so this kind of is par for the course, it feels like. That they, like, the killer players are trying to circumvent how unfun they made Spirit by using add-ons that makes her stronger and more fun, therefore. Which then makes it unfun for the survivor. It's almost like they should reward the survivor, or the killers, for playing well, and actually make her fun to play base kit. So that way killers don't need to go for these strong add-ons, and then survivors can have fun. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of rough, but stick instead of the carrot, like usual with behavior. This add-on triggers Killer Instinct on survivors who come within 4 meters of the Spirit while she is in Yumoka's phasing. It's very strong. Any survivor information about a survivor's location is crucial while the Spirit is using her power, and giving its fairly large range, this add-on has been overperforming. This is true. It is very strong. We have reduced the Killer Instinct range of Dry Cherry Blossom to 3 meters, was 4 meters. I think it'll still be strong. So I think both these add-ons will still be strong. Mother-Daughter less so. I think Cherry Blossom actually comes off better off here. But 3 meters instead of 4 meters is a pretty big difference when you're looping and you're doing loops and stuff. Gives the survivor more chance to avoid Cherry Blossom. But I still think it'll be strong. So it's not like the end of the world. It just sucks that, like I said, like, killers got a really unneeded nerf to their character. And so now they're trying to use add-ons to compensate for that and make their character more fun again and strong. And then they're now getting it nerfed again because survivors are finding it unfun to play against these strong add-ons all the time. So it's just like it's a loop-de-loop that never ends until the killer is unfun to play. And, well, if it's a balanced, non-biased discussion and balance changes, then it would never end. But what's really going to happen is the killer's just going to end up unfun even with good add-ons, and it's just going to suck. So, because that's what happens to a lot of other killers. We have reduced, I'm not going to say these. The amulet, the other amulet, and the talisman. I'm going to butcher them, and I will feel bad. Each of these add-ons increases the duration of Yumoka's Haunting. However, since the Spirit's power recharges over a set time, regardless of duration, this also meant that these add-ons had a hidden secondary effect of making her power recharge faster. These add-ons will no longer cause Yumoka's Haunting to recharge faster. Their respective duration increases remain unchanged. This confused me, and I'm not really sure. I might need somebody to help explain this to me, because I don't really quite understand. Because I understand the thing, but did they just word it wrong here? Because if your duration is increased... I might explain it myself when I talk about it out loud. But if it's over a set amount of time, regardless of duration... So let's say you use 25%, but your duration is longer. So that 25% is actually only 10%. But it's a set amount of time. So how much you use wouldn't change anything. Because it's a set amount of time. But is it... Why would it make the recharge faster? Wouldn't it just mean that you get more for no punishment? How does it make it faster? Or is it you recharge a percentage of your bar during a set amount of time? I guess that's what it is. I guess it's a set amount of... It's a set of percentage. So if you have... If you increase the duration, then 20% becomes 10%, and you recover 10% over a certain amount of time. So because you're using less, you're recovering more, if that makes sense. You're recovering it faster. I guess that's what it means. So it's a little bit more complicated than what it would seem at first glance. But it is... I mean, this is a good change. Regardless, this is a good change. Because... like, they shouldn't do double effects like that. It's kind of like the nurses add-ons. I agreed with that as well. It kind of sucks for them to get a nerf because they obviously didn't need it. And they didn't buff them in... thing, but you don't want to do, like, you know, knee-jerk reaction buffs. But I think a little buff wouldn't have been a big deal, especially because the game is in such an unbalanced state as it is. Like, there's so many unbalanced things that just give them a little bit of a buff, and if they need a nerf in the future, give them a nerf. Because what's probably going to happen is they're going to need a buff, and they're going to buff them, and they're going to need to nerf them again. So I would just give them a little bit of a buff now, because the game isn't, like, this isn't a competitive game that's in a good state where it matters that much. Like, I would agree that if this was a more competitive game and it was in a good balanced state, then yeah, you don't want to do knee-jerk buffs. But, like, you're giving them a nerf, give them a little bit of a buff as compensation, and then we'll see where it stands, you know what I mean? Whereas right now, they're probably just going to end up weaker, and they're not good add-ons, like, that good add-ons anyways. So, I don't know. But it is, like, are they good because of the duration, or are they good because they make her power recharge faster? So it is kind of a good idea to leave them, but the game is so imbalanced as it is that I think they'll probably just end up being forgotten and never getting a buff for ages. So that kind of sucks, but it is a good idea to just leave them. Since the add-ons no longer increase recovery rate, we wanted to ensure that options were available if you wanted your power to recover faster. This is a good thing because, you know, they're changing it. Origami Crane now increases the recovery rate of Yomoko's Haunting by 20%, was 10%. Likewise, Rusty Flute is also increasing a light increase in light of the changes up above. Rusty Flute now increases the recovery rate of Yomoko's Haunting by 40%, was 25. So, a little bit of a nerf for Spirit's add-ons. I don't really feel like she needed it that much. I mean, these were strong add-ons, but like I said, it's because killers are trying to compensate for how their killer got nerfed and is unfun to play now, so they're trying to make her more fun. Because it's not like these add-ons actually got changed, although Cherry Blossom did. Mother Daughter is still the exact same thing, it's just more people are using it now. That's it. Like, it says, currently far stronger than we like. This hasn't changed. This add-on didn't change. It's just that more people are using it now. That's it. That's literally it. And you want to know why more people are using it now? Is because their killer is unfun to play now. So they're trying to make her fun by using strong add-ons. That's literally it. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure this shit out. So why don't you make the base killer fun while you're at it? You know what I mean? Like, because obviously people are unhappy. So, but whatever. The Hag is also refusing a few add-on adjustments in this update. Waterlogged Shoe removes the Hag's ability to teleport to her phantasm traps, but slows nearby survivors while providing the Hag with a permanent movement speed boost. Waterlogged Shoe is really bad. The speed boost that she gets is not really enough because it just makes her a Mouse 1 killer, and Mouse 1 killers are quite weak. The slowing the nearby survivors is minuscule, so it kind of sucks. This is interesting, though, and I really like this change. They say this add-on isn't doing as well as we'd like. Yeah, it fucking sucks. So we've increased the movement speed boost to 7.5%. It was 4.5. So before, she was 114.5. Now she's going to be 117.5. She is going to be the first killer that can move faster than 115% at base with this add-on. She's not going to need a buff. She's not going to need NOED. That's really interesting. And it's going to be really interesting to see how she does on loops without any ability. Because she is going to be so fast. This is really interesting. And this is really interesting for game balance in the future. Because how is she going to do? The devs won't take this into account. Absolutely not. But conversations of game balance, we have an objective way to see somebody with 117% doing mouse 1 looping. And see, is this too fast? You know what I mean? Or could killers be increased to 17.5% if they're M1 killers and it be fine? You know what I mean? Because right now there's only 2 speeds in the game. If you're an M1 killer like Trapper, honestly, you might be able to be increased to 17.5 and it'd be perfectly fine for balance. You might be able to increase to 120. You know, probably not because that's too fast. Because once you get to the top end and you're moving so much faster than survivors, then there's a problem. But 2% might be a small enough change that mouse 1 looping becomes viable. You know what I mean? Like Legion. It might be okay for Legion to be 17.5. It might be okay for Trapper to be 17.5. So it's really interesting that this add-on is going into the game, and I will definitely be using this, like, to see what it feels like to run at 117. So, this would have been a more interesting change to implement and test out before 3% was added. That's true. You will know when people have 3% at the end of the game, but no, that is true. The 3% is broken as shit, and it does kind of suck. Because the 3% actually makes this still worse than her moving at 115%, because they'll be moving 3% faster. You're only moving 2.5% faster. So, sadly, you're still going to be slower, so there's not going to be a difference. But interesting. It's very interesting. It's not going to be a difference to 115% killer chasing a survivor, if that makes sense, without the perk, basically. It's going to be like 0.5%, so it's not a big deal. But you get what I mean. Mint Rag. This add-on allows the hag to teleport to any Phantasm Trap in the trial, even if they haven't been triggered, but with a 15-second cooldown. This can allow for some interesting mind games, but the long cooldown can make it very punishing if you use it at the wrong time. This is true. This is true. The Mint Rag is not very good. Hag is usually just as good as her base kit. It's interesting now that her base kit is changed, and she feels quite a lot weaker. It's interesting to see how, like, these add-ons are getting changed. I do like that these add-ons are getting changed, because Hag's add-ons kind of suck at the top end. The only good add-ons are the green ones, honestly, and the yellow ones. But they've reduced the cooldown to teleport to 10 seconds. I still think Mint Rag is kind of bad. I don't know if this will be good, because you really need to see what 17.5% feels like to loop. Because, again, the speed bonus when they slow survivors is like nothing. But, to be fair, because you're slowing survivors and you're faster than them, it'll be compounded to have more of an effect. So it'll be interesting to see what this feels like. Waterlogged Shoe. I think Mint Rag will still kind of suck. But we'll see how it feels. Because she's still 110%, or 110% with this. Which means that, yeah, you can teleport, but if you don't teleport right on top of a survivor, you're not going to be able to catch them, so it's a bit awkward. Half Eggshell and Cracked Turtle Egg. These add-ons increase the duration of triggered Phantasm Traps, which is pointless. There's no real reason to use that, except, like, above the basement, so you can get a little bit closer and then teleport, but then instead you could use an add-on that lets you get closer. So these add-ons, even though they're getting buffed, I don't think will ever be used still. Allowing her more time to get in range to teleport and a longer window to teleport and chase. Both are underperforming at the moment, yeah, because there's no reason to use them. And so we are giving them a slight increase. Again, there's no reason to use them, so a slight increase does nothing. It's like, they don't... I feel like these devs don't look at why something is underperforming. They're just like, underperforming? Slap some numbers on it. Underperforming? Change up its effect a little bit. Underperforming? I don't know, I don't know, do something. Give the intern, like, a turn. Like, they don't look at, like, why these things are happening. Like, if you're trying to fix a problem, it's important to see why the problem is happening. Why would you not use these add-ons? Why do people not use them? The reason people don't use them is because duration only matters if you can't teleport to the trap. Because as soon as a trap is activated, they will move away from the trap, the survivor. So duration only matters if you want to travel to that trap from a far distance and you can't reach it because you're too far away. So why not just use the add-on that means that you can teleport to it when you're farther away? There's no reason. That's just the add-on that you will use, because that add-on has good value and the same value as duration add-ons. The only time that one of these duration add-ons is useful is, like I said, when it's above the basement and you need to teleport back there and camp there. But again, duration does the same thing, or like range does the same thing. So again, like, they don't look at why nobody wants to use these add-ons, because it's very obvious. If you play Hag for an extended period of time, you instantly see, oh, these add-ons have no value. I can just use the range add-on, and it's just better. So why wouldn't I just use the range add-on? So it's like they don't see why. And it's the same thing with the mother-daughter ring. It's like, it's very obvious. This add-on has not changed. The reason that people are complaining about it is because more people are using it now. Why are more people using it now? Because their killer got made unfun, and they're trying to find a way to fix it. This add-on has not changed. Why would it be a problem now if it wasn't a problem before? It's because more people are using it, which is frustrating to play against it all the time. Why are more people using it? Because they find their killer unfun without it, and so they want to use it. They find their killer either too weak or too unfun. It's more so unfun, because she's still good, but she's just unfun. Like, it's just, you just need to look at these things. Like, if your roof is leaking water, what do you do? Okay? What do you do to fix the problem? Do you just put a tarp over the entire roof? No, you find the hole and you fix the hole, because it's the hole that's the problem. It's not the whole fucking roof. Like, it's like, I don't understand why they can't understand that. Like, this is how you do problem solving. You figure out why the problem is happening, and then you fix it. Like, you don't just slap something on it and just say, all right, did that work? No? Fuck. Try again. Like, that's not how you problem solve. That's not how you problem solve. Move out. Sorry, I put randoms in when they numbers in when they told me to fix it. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel like random numbers, though, to be fair. Like, to give them credit, it doesn't feel like, jokes aside, like, they are thinking about these changes that they're making, but they're not making the right changes, because they don't look at why they need to make the changes. They just look at that a change needs to be made, and then they're like, all right, well, let's think of something to change, and then we'll just change it, and hope that it fixes it. If you take the time and the effort to think about why you need to change it, then you can change it correctly and actually fix the problem, instead of just changing the problem. But anyways, Coldwind Farm balance update. Good, because Coldwind Farms are some of the strongest survivor maps in the thing, and I think they do actually say that. As announced during this year's anniversary broadcast, we are planning to regularly revisit and rebalance existing maps. First up on our to-do list for this year, Fractured Cowshed and Rancid Abattoir, two very strong survivor maps. Rotten Fields is actually not that survivor-sided. It's a bit more like even. It's still a strong survivor map, I'd say, just because it's quite big. But there's less loops, so it's actually a bit more even and fair. And then Thompson House is a bit strong. I think Thompson House could use a fix as well, but Thompson House is a bit better than Rancid Abattoir and Fractured Cowshed, to be fair. Those are very strong survivor maps. For Fractured Cowshed, we found this map lean too heavily in favor of the survivors. Thank you for admitting that. There's a few causes. Oops. There's a few causes for this. First, the 4 most useful tiles form a big ring around the entire map. That's true, yeah. And it's the reason that people 1v1 is because they can go from tile to tile to tile to tile to tile. And they can use everything on the map if they are good enough as survivor. They can never get caught until everything on the map has been exhausted. It's why people use it for 1v1s. It's because you can go from tile to tile to tile. On some maps, there's big dead zones, so you get hit no matter how good you are, which is the only way killer really gets hit these days. Gets hits these days. Sorry, can't speak. This made it very easy for survivors to run from one pallet to another with very little risk of being caught in between. Exactly. Second, the barn itself has a fairly strong setup for survivors. Yes. Allowing them to waste quite a bit of the killer's time before leaving. Yes. Third, the center of the map is mostly empty, featuring only corn. Once any generators in the corner are completed, the killer has to patrol in the big circle around the entire map to find survivors, making it very time-consuming. I'd say this is less of a point, but it's interesting that they also consider it, so I appreciate that. That is an A+, that they also consider that fact. But I do think that that's less of a problem. I think it's really the looping that's the problem. That map isn't particularly big. It is a decent size, but it's not particularly big, so it's not really the time-consuming part. It's more so the loops are very strong. But I do like that they're considering that as well. To remedy this, we have made significant layout changes to the map, breaking up the strong outer ring of tiles in the process. Additionally, I'm interested to see if the 1v1 map will change because of this, or if it's going to stay for Fractured Cowshed. Additionally, we have made some adjustments to the layout of the barn itself, which is now slightly closer to the middle of the map to reduce its strength. I disagree about this entirely. They say, actually, oh, okay, to be fair, they've made, I think they meant for this to be, like, in bracket, like, this is their parentheses, if that makes sense. Like, think about this sentence in parentheses because of these little dashes here. Because putting the barn in the middle of the map is actually stronger, in my opinion. Because if you think about Asylum, chasing in the middle of the house is really frustrating on any map. And when it's in the middle of the map, they can always run to that house when they use a pallet, if that makes sense. So they stay outside the house, they use the pallet. Now you have to break the pallet because pallets are so strong a lot of the time. And then when you're breaking that pallet, they run to the house, and now they can use the windows in the house to waste your time even more. So middle of the map is stronger, but I think that they meant to put this in parentheses because they meant for this to be a sentence. Additionally, we have made some adjustments to the layout of the barn itself to reduce its strength. And this was just a thing added on in parentheses saying, the barn is also now closer to the middle of the map, by the way. So I think that's what they meant. So it's good if it's reduced to the strength. The fact it's in the middle of the map is concerning, but they've also, but I will get rid of that big dead zone in the middle, so that's interesting. But survivors will finish the gen in the middle of the map, and then they'll just run to the outside. And then they'll just run there for looping after when they get chased. So I don't like the big building being in the middle of the map, personally. I think that usually makes for very bad map design, like for killer gameplay, but... and it's just strong for Survivor, but if the loops were weaker, then it wouldn't matter, so. Slightly closer also isn't the middle of the map. That's true, actually. That's a good point. It does say slightly closer. We'll see what they mean exactly. But yeah, that is true, actually. So I guess it'll be in, like, one of the corners. Like, if you think about it like a square, it'll be in, like, the middle corner of the map. So that's not too bad, actually. So if they are on one side, they won't be able to get there as easily. Sadly, breaking a pallet gives the survivors a lot of distance. So if it is closer to the middle, it might be enough for them to run there most of the time, unless they're on the other opposite corner, if that makes sense. But that is a good point. I didn't read that properly. All right. Though it is behavior, so who knows what their definition of slightly closer is. Oh, that's also true. That is also true. As for Racet and Abattoir, depending on how the map generated, the slaughterhouse could feature strong setups for survivors, allowing them to waste a good amount of the killer's time. Oh, this is Rancid Abattoir, actually, not the Cornucopia map. I thought this was the Cornucopia map for some reason. This one is also very strong, to be fair. Not as strong as the Cornucopia map, I'd say, but this is also a strong map. Feature strong setups, allowing them to waste a good bit of the killer's time. This is true. Additionally, the large freezer in the center of the building feature a single entrance and nothing important to gameplay. There was totems sometimes. But I do understand what they're saying, that there's no reason for you to go in there. So it just kind of felt lame. So it'll be interesting. Leaving little reason for anyone to explore it. I do understand what they're saying here. The fact that nobody wants to go inside the freezer kind of sucks. What's up, Plastic? Welcome. Welcome. New Sadako changes. I'm excited for her to get changed. I don't know how I feel about the changes yet. I feel like they're bad and kind of a nerf. Well, not a nerf. It's just a change. I feel like she'll play out kind of similarly. But we'll have to wait till, like, the live servers to actually see how it feels. I already talked about them pretty extensively. But I think it's going to feel a bit like most other killers, where the survivors have control of your power, which kind of sucks. But is what it is. I do kind of worry about the fact that they're adding pallets and windows to the freezer, because it just sounds like more pallets and windows in the middle building, but hopefully it'll be even, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's not like they're adding more pallets and windows to the main building. They're just moving some of the pallets and windows in the main building to the freezer and making the freezer a little bit more viable to go into, because right now it is kind of just a dead space. There is a totem in there and you can do some hiding, but usually you get caught instantly, so most people just don't go in there at all, which is fair. I understand that they don't want there to be that, like, you know, not useful part of the map, especially since it's, like, kind of a fun little, like, freezer with all the hanging pigs and stuff, so I can understand that. We've updated the layout of the slaughterhouse to make stronger setups less effective. This is good, but sometimes they don't understand what a strong loop is, so we'll see how that actually plays out. We've also opened up the wall in the back of the freezers to allow players to navigate it more easily. It depends how this works. I do like the idea that you can run through the freezer, but we'll see how it feels, like, because it really depends what the actual layout of the windows are and the pallets and stuff. So, and this isn't enough of a picture, really. You can kind of see that this opens up here, which is interesting. But what about the window that, like, you know, you had to, like, loop a long way around to get to? Is it now super easy to get to that God window and use it over and over again? Does it create an infinite? You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to know. So you have to wait. Across the entire realm, you'll notice some updated corn tiles with extra detail, as well as updated edge tiles across the map's outer fences. This is cool. It's more stuff for the survivors to hide in, which kind of sucks, but there's more open space with less corn, which is also cool. So I think this is just a plus for everybody. It's just more interactive gameplay, less corn, less like stale like visuals. So while it could be good for survivors to hide around things, it also means that the killer, there isn't as much corn. There's big gaps in the corn in some places. So I think it'll be easier for the killers to see through a little bit, but it'll also be easier for the survivors to hide around this stuff. So I think it is just a positive thing. With that, we've reached the end of this developer update. All the changes in this post will be available to test on the public test build starting later this week. We look forward to reading through your thoughts once you've had the opportunity to try them out. So these changes seem good in theory, but map updates are really... So I'll go through each change and say how I feel about them. I think that these are good in theory, but with DBD map changes, you really have to play the map, because I feel like the devs just, they don't play at a very high level, which is fair. I'm not hating on them. It's just the truth. Like, it's okay to not play at a high level. I'm not saying this is an insult. It's just the truth. So it does take, like, you have to see if they actually did a good job, because sometimes they don't do a good job. So we'll see if these actually end up good, but they seem good in theory. Like, they seem positive. Like, overall, these all seem like positive changes. It seems like it could be nice if the corn maps aren't just hell. As soon as you load in onto a farm map, you're like, fuck. You know what I mean? I want to cry as the killer. The hag changes, this is pointless. It really just shows that they don't really understand why things are, like, too strong or need to be changed. They just slap some numbers on something and hope it fixes the problem. They don't try and figure out why the problem exists. Mint rag I think will still be bad, because it just, you're 110%. Waterlogged shoe is really interesting. I think this is really cool to have in the game, and outside of the 3%, I think this will lead to some very interesting testing. So this is cool, and very interesting perspective on M1 looping in general, if 17.5% is perfectly balanced, you know what I mean? And maybe Trapper, Legion, some of the, you know, bad M1 killers can maybe get a little bit of a boost in their speed, potentially even, which would be cool. They won't, but, you know, the idea that that conversation can become a thing, you know what I mean? The spirit changes, again, I feel like it just shows that they don't understand why problems exist. They don't try and figure out why the problems exist. They just try to fix them with numbers. I do think that these add-ons were a bit too strong, so nerfing them's fair, but again, they don't try and figure out why the problem exists. I do think this is a good change, because you don't want these add-ons to do, like, unintentional effects that aren't listed. So, same thing with the nurse add-ons that got changed a little while ago. This is just a good thing. These are nice little buffs to the recovery rate, because now these add-ons don't do recovery rate anymore. So these are all good, but again, it does show that they don't understand why things are a problem. This sucks, because Executioner could be cool. I understand why it happens, and this is kind of a good thing, but it kind of sucks because I wish that they could change Executioner to actually being cool and better, but instead they're just making him more punished for doing his ability in the only way that it works. So that kind of sucks. Be nice if they changed it. Visual terror rate is being removed. That's good, because it just makes the game less convoluted and confusing. Smash hit being changed is interesting and cool. Buckle up being changed. This perk is incredibly strong now, but it doesn't matter because there's just better options, because Survivor has so many good, strong options. Breakout's cool. I don't think that they went too over the top with it. I like that they were a little bit careful with it. That's a cool thing. Makes it a little bit more viable. Clairvoyance, nobody will use this still because it's just a bad perk. It's just so many better options. But it is nice change as well, because Blessing means there's more synergy and more options with it. So that's cool. And it's more like, it makes more sense, honestly. Saboteur, this will only really matter if this 2.3 seconds is uncounterable from the killer. If it is, this perk is broken. If it isn't, this perk is useless. It really is that big of a swing, like genuinely. So we'll see, because you just use a toolbox if this is counterable, and if it isn't counterable, then this perk is broken strong. So we'll see. Wiretap, I don't think will get used anymore, to be honest. I think it will get used more, but it's a fun perk that will just be used for fun, really. There's just so many better options for Survivor, and it's kind of hit or miss whether you get good value out of it. Because if the killer actually loops there or whatever. But I think it is fun, and I don't think that 120 seconds is too much. Again, I think that this perk is kind of lame, that you don't know when it's being activated, so there's no counterplay. But I don't mind this perk. It's not overpowered. Blast Mine, this is a joke. Like, this is comedically bad and hilarious how inept the devs are by adding something like this. This is just painful. Like, this is honestly just a slap in the face for killers. Just completely uncounterable bullshit perk that is very overpowered, to be honest, and there's nothing you can do about it. Even before, it's like there was barely any counter, and now there literally is none. Just get hit by it. So, they do gens, they get a bomb, they can place to stop you from stopping them doing gens, that you then have to kick, because there's no other counterplay, to then let them do more gens. Okay. Prove Thyself, I don't think this is a big enough nerf, but there's so many good Survivor options that and it's not a very fun perk, that I don't think many people will use this anymore, even though it's still strong, in my opinion. I think 10% is still a strong perk. But I don't think that... I think this perk should be reworked. I don't think there should be a gen speed perk that just makes the most efficient way to repair gens more efficient. I think that's just stupid. But it is a nerf at the very least, and will hopefully bring it out of the meta, which I think it will, genuinely. Even though I think it's still strong, I think this will bring it out of the meta, just because there's just better options and more fun options as well, for Survivor. And they don't need this perk to win. You know what I mean? It's not like Killer where you need gen defense. They can just run whatever the fuck they want and still win games, because Survivor is strong. The blood point thing is a good thing. It's a good thing that they removed this, because you don't want perks to have blood points, because then you are forced to run those perks to kind of be ahead of the trend, and they have to balance around two different values. So it's either they expect everybody to have the perk, or they expect no one to have the perk. And if they expect no one to have the perk, then you're incentivized to always run the perk. And if they expect you to have the perk, then you're incentivized to always run the perk. So, or you're forced to always run the perk. So removing this is a net positive for everyone. And people are complaining about it because they don't understand that. They can't think past, oh no, my blood points. That's literally as far as the thought process goes for them, and they don't understand that this is a positive thing for the game to remove all perks that affect blood points. Because otherwise, you are forced or heavily incentivized to always run the perk, and your choices go away. So that's not a good thing, obviously, and it makes the game more repetitive, less interesting, or very frustrating for people who don't have the perk. So, yeah. Good thing. Make sure there's no perks that give blood points. A+. Next, Trail of Torment. Really cool, actually. I think this is exactly what the perk needs to actually work the way it was intended. I'm not sure why it didn't work this way before, but I know why is because it would have been too oppressive for survivors and they would have complained. Now, hopefully, survivors don't complain about it, and this can stay this way because this is really cool. I think this will work actually the way it's intended now, which is cool. Hex crowd control will, again, also work exactly the way it's intended. I don't know why it didn't work this way to begin with, but I do know because survivors would have complained. So, again, same change as this. Now it can work the way it's intended. It's still a hex perk, so I don't think it'll be that useful. I think these are probably the two best perks out of the killer changes. I think that Blast Mine and Buckle Up are the two best perks, but I still don't think that... Or maybe Saboteur as well. It depends how this value works. But I don't think that... I think that this will be used... in like some fun builds, but I don't think it'll like be meta because you kind of have to build around it or play specific killers, and survivors will be able to counter it quite easily. So I think it'll be a fun, decent / strong perk, but I don't think it'll be good, if that makes sense. Hex crowd control is a hex totem, so while this is a good perk, and I think there is some interesting builds now, I think that it won't be that strong because it's always a hex perk and it can just be cleansed. But I do think there's some interesting things now with it, with potentially Wesker Legion, potentially. Bubba, Hillbilly, with Undying, Pentimento, potentially. Like, there's some very interesting things. So, these 2 perks, A+. Remember Me, just A+. It'll be used about the same amount. It's a bit stronger now, but it's really not that big of a difference. It's 8 seconds overall. Not a huge deal. But endgame builds will be stronger because of it, so that's cool. Territorial Imperative, I think there's some interesting stuff with the counterplay of the aura reading and the cooldown. I think it could lead to some fun gameplay, but I think it'll still be quite weak because I think it'll be too long for the killer to get back there in time. So I think that, but the 24 meters has interesting stuff with Devour Hope, so it's interesting, but I think it'll sadly still end up being quite weak. Hangman's Trick is a joke. I think the only way that you can make use out of this is Mad Grit, Agitation, Iron Grasp on fucking the game, Midwich, or RPD. Like, that's literally the only way you use this perk. Otherwise, it is complete garbage. There's not even anything to experiment with. I think that 10 meters will be more impactful than I think, and I think it'll still be shit. So yeah. Claustrophobia, it's a cool idea, and I think it's a fun way to change the perk. It's a fun perk, but it's not going to be a good perk, because survivors will know it's going to happen. Survivors can avoid it for the 30 seconds, and, I mean, because, like, crowd control got 60 seconds. Claustrophobia is 30 seconds. 14 seconds obviously wasn't enough. So, we'll see if 30 seconds is enough, right? I think it will be because they can prepare for it. That's the thing. Because they know with the Survivor UI whenever Claustrophobia is going to activate. So they could just prepare and avoid it. So I think sadly this will be kind of weak, but I think it'll be fun at least, and some people will mess around with it, but I don't think it'll be used very much. Coup de Grace, this is a good change. I think this perk is actually better, and this is something that I suggested the way it be changed. I liked my other idea better, but I don't think they would add that because of console and mobile and stuff, sadly. I think that the limitations just force them not to add something like that, even though it is a better change in my opinion. But I do like, this was my other option because I knew that they wouldn't do the other option. And I think this is a good change to make this perk better, but still play the same role. So it'll be used more by the people who already use it in the same situations they would already use it, but now it'll just be more fun and better. So not much of a change there. Brand new part overall gets a big performance decrease. I still think that it's kind of ironic that when survivors bring a whole bunch of these, it'll be quite frustrating, but it'll be less frustrating than the way it was already, so it's a net positive overall. Brand new part is incredibly strong, so this is a good change, and it's nice that it finally gets a nerf. Well, another nerf, to be fair. But I do think it'll be frustrating still when a Survivor with Friends uses a whole bunch of these, but there's a lot of things Survivor Friends can already do that's very frustrating, so it is what it is. When solos use these, it's definitely going to be less impactful, though. So that's, and when stupid people use them. When smart people use them, they will still be quite impactful and kind of suck to play against, but you won't really notice it's happening, and it won't be like as impactful as it was before, so it'll be less frustrating. Hook grabs. This is a really controversial one. I think this is a good change. I think it's bad change in the current state of the game, and if they don't do anything else with the big picture, which I don't think they will because they never do. If they were going to change other things and make the game better, or the game was in a better state, I think this is a good thing to remove, because I don't think this is good for the health of the game. The problem is that it's good for the current health of the game, and so removing it is going to reduce the current health of the game, in my opinion. I think that you'll just be faced with more efficiency from the survivor's ends of things, the gens will go faster, and you'll be faced with increased efficiency at endgame saves. It'll be very uncountable for you to do anything, and in those games where you're forced to camp to be able to have a chance to compete, you're not going to be able to do the hook grabs, so camping is just not going to work. So it's forcing outcomes, basically. There's forcing outcomes in these games where you're forced to camp, you're now forced to lose instead, which really sucks. They're doing a balance pass on Onryo's add-ons, but they don't tell us for some fucking stupid reason. Who knows why they wouldn't tell us? I think it's just ineptness, to be honest. I don't know why they wouldn't say this unless they just don't have the values. Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't just put it here. But I guess there's that saying, you should assume stupidity instead of like maliciousness. So I am going to assume that it's not that they just don't know the values or they want to surprise you or, you know, keep it hidden. It's just that they're too stupid to realize that people would like to see the challenge or the changes that they're going to implement. Hopefully that's the reasoning. These things down here are a net positive. I don't think this will have any counterplay because of the fact that survivors, well, it might, you can maybe do this on loops against bad survivors. Actually, even mid-range survivors, I think, might get caught by this. But good survivors are going to know about this if it becomes a meta to kind of go for the demanifest so that way you can't be stunned just to break the pallet slightly faster kind of thing. But I don't think you'll be able to catch them at the same loop. So I think this is more of a quality of life thing. I don't think that this will actually be an anti-loop ability anymore, or like now, because it's a thing. So it would be cool if it was, but I don't think it will become one just because of the way that it takes her time and reduces her movement speed when she demanifests, or like charges up her demanifestation. And you can see the animation, I'm pretty sure. So good survivors will just stop you from using it, but mid-range survivors I think will be caught by it. So there's potential there. So devs probably don't play their game. Most devs don't, though, to be fair. Most devs don't. They just don't have the time or have the interest, so it is what it is. These changes, these all kind of come as one. I sadly think that the survivors are just going to have the power role in this. I don't think that this is actually going to change her power in any way. I think that they looked at the condemn problem, even though the player base literally spelled out how to fix the problem and what the problems with it were. They did not take that stuff to heart, and they did not actually think it was interesting enough or like the way to fix the problem. It kind of goes back to what I said before, that they don't look at why the problem is a thing. They just try and slap some changes on it, slap some numbers on it, and hope it fixes it. I sadly think that you're not going to get much condemns because I think that the survivors have complete control of the situation. Like, genuinely, I thought it was bad, and then I thought maybe there was a chance, though. But then I talked about the numbers and, like, the actual situation of, like, the game actually playing out organically, and I genuinely now think that there's just no chance. If the survivors just grab tapes like they're not idiots, I don't think there's a chance you get a condemn. Like, genuinely. Like, I just don't see it happening. You have to specifically target a survivor or slug and camp and tunnel. Like, you have to do some pretty dirty stuff to get a condemn on somebody. And I think it'll be interesting. But I think there is a gameplay loop you could do where you maybe hook some survivors and then slug one of them to try and get him to condemned instead of hooking him, to kind of save you a bit of time there, and go for the condemn kill on him, but go for the hook kills on other people. That's a strategy, potentially. I don't think it's a very fun strategy for that survivor, which will be kind of a problem, but I think it's a fun strategy for the Sadako, you know what I mean? So I think it's interesting. But I think that we'll have to see how these changes play out, but in my opinion, in my prediction, nobody's going to get condemned unless they're an idiot or unless you're playing dirty and trying to get them specifically. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the survivors are in the complete power role in this with these changes. So, at first glance, it reads more like a nerf than a buff or a rework. I think it's just a change, to be honest. Like, that's how it feels. Like, it's really sad, but I really don't know. I'm really curious what's going to happen to Condemn Sadako playstyle. I really think that the Iridescent is going to get a nerf here because it's saying that they're bringing her highest and her lowest performing add-ons. When you think highest performing add-on for Sadako, what do you think of? Iridescent tape. So, yeah. I would definitely expect Iridescent tape to be getting a nerf. And now, I don't know if Condemned Sadako is going to live because it's very reliant on add-ons. And I don't play it to really know, like, you have to think about it like as a completely different perspective, and I'm not well versed enough to really think about it like that. So Condemned Sadako players are going to have to make a judgment based on this text and then also based on how the add-ons. If I saw that the Iridescent tape got a huge nerf, then I would pretty confidently be able to say, hey, yeah, that's fucking dog shit now. You can't do Condemned Sadako. These things are just positives. Like the Survivor Disconnects bots, since they're still punishing people, A+, there's nothing wrong with that. Can't be seen as a bad thing. It's objectively a good thing. Successful report feedback, I don't feel a need for it because I feel like you should just report people regardless if things are happening. Like, and I think that But it theoretically could help people see that, you know, oh, your exploit and, you know, like harassment and cheating accusations, or not accusations, but reports actually went through, whereas your, oh, this guy camped and tunneled that didn't get anybody banned, you know, maybe that'll theoretically help people, but I don't think it will, because those people just don't have knowledge, like they, or not knowledge, but they just don't have like processing power in their brain to figure out that those things aren't bannable. So I don't think it's going to help them figure anything out, sadly, but overall this is a net positive change because it's objectively good. There's nothing wrong with this. But I don't really feel a need for feedback to keep reporting people. I feel like I don't report people because I see that, well, one, most people don't even do anything wrong. The only time you get any people doing anything wrong is harassment over text. And I do usually report them for that a little bit, although maybe not as much because it's pretty commonplace. But, I mean, this is a good thing. It is nice to get feedback, and it will make people report more. It will make me report more too, probably, actually. So it is a objectively good thing. It is objectively good. Because humans, believe it or not, I know killer players must not be human, but we actually respond very well to, like, positive reinforcement. So if you give us feedback saying, hey, that thing you did was really good, keep doing that, we're going to keep doing it. You could imply this same strategy to killer, you know. Like, when you chase a survivor and you don't hook or you don't camp, slug, and tunnel, you actually get positive reinforcement. You know, something good happens in the match. You know, that, you know, just an idea could actually make killers play nicer. You know, if, you know, they got something for it, that would be cool. That would be really cool. But, no. Instead, here's the stick. I'm going to beat you until you give up slugging and tunneling and camping and just chase survivors and lose every time. And until you start doing that, then no buffs for you. Have the stick. It's like, it's insane. But it is the way they balance their game, man. It is the way they balance their game. I did want to see if the PTB is out. I'm not going to play the PTB because personally I don't enjoy the PTB on DBD because, one, I will explain why I don't enjoy the PTB for anybody who's curious. I think it is very unimpactful. It's basically a beta most of the time. They don't change things. They basically are just, it's just a hype tool. They rarely ever change things from the PTB, it feels like. And I know that killer feedback is not really considered very highly, so just feels like you're shouting into the void. Two, it's not a good testing environment whatsoever. Nobody gives a shit about the games. People DC constantly. People can bring whatever items they want. People just don't give a shit. So it's just not a good testing environment, so whatever. So you just don't get any entertainment. Three, I don't get any value from it. I feel like it goes back to the other two things. It feels like the games are a waste of time, and it feels like my feedback is unneeded, and I don't get any rewards for doing it. So I would rather just play the normal game. So, yeah. And so why would I play the PTB? It also takes a long fucking time to download and get games on it as well. It takes a long fucking time to find a match. So, just not worth my time. I just don't see any point. Is the PTB out, though? Because if so, Nicolas Cage's perks are out, which means we can see what they are. Let's see. So these, I think these are out 2 hours ago. So let's read through these. Dramaturgy activates while you are healthy. While running, press the activate ability button to run with knees high for 0.5 seconds, and then gain... What the fuck does knees high mean? Then gain 25% haste for 2 seconds. Followed by an unknown effect. One of the following. What? What the actual fuck? This is actually the... So, one of the following perks, one of the following effects happens. Exposed for 12 seconds. 25% haste for 2 seconds. Scream, but nothing happens. Gain a random rare item in hand with random add-ons. fuck? Can I show this? I can show this. What the fuck? They added suspicious stew into the game, yeah. The same effect cannot happen twice in a row, causes exhaustion for 40 seconds, cannot be used while exhausted. So, you get 25% haste for 2 seconds. Wait a second. Sprint burst is how many seconds? I think this is, it's faster than the sprint burst, but lasts shorter amount of time, right? But how much shorter? Does the value end up being the same thing? No, actually, sprint burst is 150%. So 25%, not a huge amount. And sprint burst is for 3 seconds. So you don't get a huge bonus. It is actually kind of not too overpowered at first glance. The thing is that you can get 25% haste. It says followed by an unknown effect. Obviously, this is just a Reddit post, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I guess it would be followed because you don't want to be exposed while you have the haste, I guess. So you'll get the haste. You could get double haste. The scream will mean nothing happens. And you can't have the same effect, but you could be exhausted for 12 seconds. But the thing is that the killer's not going to want to chase you after the 25% haste. So the exposed isn't actually that big of a thing. Exposed, sorry, not exhausted. So this looks positive, mostly. But it does replace your exhaustion perk, which is interesting. Next, Scene Partner. Activates when you're in the killer's terror radius. Whenever you look at the killer, scream, then see the killer's aura for 5 seconds. There's a chance you'll scream again. If you do, you will see the killer's aura for an additional 2 seconds. Scene Partner that goes on cooldown for 60 seconds. They went so memey with these perks. What the fuck? That's kind of fun, though. That's kind of fun. Oh, wait. Let me just make sure this doesn't show anything. There's PTB patch notes. We might be able to look at these. See if there's anything else. Yeah, this looks fine. Okay. Got Nicolas Cage. So disconnected bots, dramaturgy and plot twist. There's new character portraits. Added visuals for new items. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah. Okay, so followed by an unknown effect. Yeah, it's taken straight from here. So these are the same effects. Scene Partner. This is really interesting. These are really weird perks. I don't think many people will use this. It's fun, but I don't think many people will use this because it doesn't really do that much. Like, you get to see the killer's aura, but you also reveal your location. I guess it's useful in a chase? Yeah, that's true, actually. It's kind of useful in a looping chase. Some people might use this with, like, Object of Obsession or something. It's kind of interesting. Plot twist. Activates when you're injured. Press the activate ability button while crouched and motionless to silently enter the dying state. When using plot twist to enter the dying state, you leave no blood pools, make no noise, and you can fully recover from the dying state. When you recover by yourself using plot twist, you are fully healed instantly and gain 50% haste for 4 seconds. This perk deactivates if you recover by yourself by any means. The perk reactivates when the exit gates are powered. What the fuck? That's actually kind of fucking hilarious, though. So you die to heal yourself, but so it's a 1-game use heal, basically. Props to them for doing Nick Cage right. No, honestly, these are funny as fuck perks. These are funny as fuck. I actually respect. This shows you that they can do fun, interesting perks. Right? This shows you that the perks don't have to be boring. You know what I mean? They can come up with some fun ideas, but they just don't most of the time. But when they're pushed to, they actually come up with some fun shit. You know what I mean? So I feel like they should be held to that more often. You know what I mean? Like, let's actually, you know, make some fun shit all the time. You know what I mean? Like, let's not just throw bullshit perks. I mean, those perks in the fucking Skull Merchant update, dude, those perks were whack, man. Like, those were fucking lame. Like, I don't know who fucking... Like, that was the C team. That was not the B team. The C team fucking created the idea for those perks. Like, that shit was fucking lame. Like, it was... Some of them were perks that were already in the fucking game. Like, it's insane. It's insane that, like, those even got added. And they can do fun stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like they're running out of ideas. I mean, they are running out of ideas, but they can come up with some if they're really pushed to, which they should be, because, like, we're buying this shit. You know what I mean? Like, so, it's their job. They should be pushed to make fun ideas, but regardless of that, these are some fun ideas. These are some interesting perks. I think that this perk is really fun. I think that all these perks are really fun. I don't think any of them are overpowered at first glance. They give strong effects, but they have downsides, which is really interesting. I think Scene Partner is honestly the most boring one, but there is some interesting stuff you could do with it while looping, because seeing the killer's aura for 5 seconds while looping and screaming is fine, because he already knows where you are, but now you get to see his aura for 5 seconds. But you could scream again. But it says there's a chance. I wish they told you what the chance was. The 25% haste seems quite strong, but it's only while you're healthy. So if the killer, like, catches you off guard, that sucks. And it's an exhaustion perk, so you can't use Made for this. You can't use Dead Hard. You can't use Lithe. You can't use Sprint Burst. So that's really good. And I think that it's actually not too strong, because 25% haste for 2 seconds isn't as good as a Sprint Burst. And the killer can see when it's about to activate as well, so they could run away, because you run with knees high for 5 seconds. I don't think you run slower. I think it just means animation, right? There's just an animation. Hopefully that animation doesn't look fucking silly, but it probably will, because their animations are never very good. Like, sometimes you can get nothing out of it. Sometimes you get a random rare item, which is kind of fun. You get an extra thing of haste, or you get exposed. If the thing is that the exposed thing is not better, yeah. The exposed thing, sadly, is not that big of a downside, because the killer's not going to want to chase you after the 25% haste. But 25% haste, if you're in a dead zone, really isn't that impactful. 25% haste, if you're at a loop, or, like, going to get to a loop, is quite impactful. So, it depends when you use it. So, an exposed for 12 seconds is a decent chunk of time. So, I do think that this isn't too powerful. I don't think this is too powerful. The plot twist could be powerful, but then again, it's just a one-game heal, if that makes sense. You only get fully healed if you recover by yourself, and you gain the haste status effect. This sounds fun to use with my fucking wiggle build, honestly, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to use this with the wiggle build, and fucking, like, because you could just die whatever you want, and you... like, that's kind of fucking hilarious. I can die whenever I want. Like, that... Oh, dude! That means I can run up to a fucking high place and I can die before the killer gets there. Which means they can't pick me up instantly. Dude, the wiggle build might work. And if you it only disables when you recover by yourself. Like, that's actually pretty cool. I think this is actually could be really fun. This could be really fun. This is really interesting. This is really interesting. Honestly, that could be hilarious. I don't think it's that strong, honestly, because you spend all that time not doing anything. You're basically healing anyways. I actually think this is actually one of the weakest ones now that I think about it, because it's a one-time game activation, or 2 times. When the games are powered, it reactivates. But you only get the full heal if you recover by yourself, which means if you go down and then somebody, like, if you don't deactivate it, you get no value. And even if you do deactivate it, the only thing you get is 1 heal, and you were on the ground, which basically takes the same time as healing. So you get the haste, but 50% haste for 4 seconds. I mean, that's good. I mean, Sprint Burst is 150 for 3 seconds. Actually, wait a second. No. Oh, that's really interesting wording. Holy fuck. And that's really shitty. Sprint Burst is not 150%. It's 150% of your normal running speed. Which means that 25% for 2 seconds is it's half the speed as a sprint burst. It's not a small amount of speed. That's quite a lot of speed. So 50% is a speed of a sprint burst. So 25% for 4 seconds is almost as good as a sprint burst. But you might not get it for 4 seconds. You might only get it for 2 seconds. So that's still quite a considerable jump. So the exposed is going to kind of suck for the killer because they're going to get quite a big distance away. And then you're going to get exposed for 12 seconds. But they're going to spend a lot of time catching up to that. But it does depend against which killer you go up against. So, I don't know. It's interesting. But exposed is only for basic attacks. So it's like Nurse, yeah, it's going to be a terrible perk against Nurse. It's going to be a terrible perk against Spirit. Against Billy, Blight, it's not going to matter because they're not going to be able to catch up and then hit you in time, I don't think. Because of the recovery time. Pinhead, if he hooks you, it could be good. Huntress is not going to matter. Trickster is not going to matter. Deathslinger, it does matter. Deathslinger could chain you and then hit you with the exposed. So there's certain killers that it's going to be really weak against and certain killers that it's going to be strong. I think this is the strongest one. I think this is the second strongest one. I think this is the weakest one. I actually think this perk is very useless, to be honest. I don't really see the situation where you'd use this. I don't really see the situation where you'd use this. But I think there'll be some funny situations. Like, it can lead to some interesting situations. But in regular organic play, like outside of like freak accidents, I don't think you use this. Scene Partner, I think there's some usability there for looping and being like a bit of a nuisance, right? With the looping and the aura reading. But I don't think it's too particularly good. I think it's like maybe like a B perk or a C perk. Like, it doesn't seem too strong. I'd say B, if we're going A and S. Dramaturgy actually seems like a decent exhaustion perk, and it's going to be a fun one. Maybe not like as good. I don't think it'll be as good as Sprint Burst or anything, but it seems decent. I don't think it'll be overpowered, but I think it'll be strong. But it's hard to judge because these are very new. So this is all the stuff that we've seen. I'm curious if we can see the add-on changes for Onryo. We cannot. Kind of lame. Yeah, it doesn't show our add-ons. Sedge. That's kind of dumb. Why doesn't it show our add-ons? But interesting. Interesting stuff. The Nicolas Cage stuff is interesting. I think that overall this next patch looks positive but concerning because it does not it's not going to really change the state of the game right now, and the state of the game is getting to a concerning point, if that makes sense. That's my like stance on it. Like, I think that the speed of the gens and the meta right now is in kind of a concerning spot, and those changes aren't going to do anything to change that, if that makes sense. So that kind of concerns me. But overall, the changes seem like positive, if that makes sense. But not like, it's not like they're good changes. It's just like that they're decent. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like they're good changes, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I feel about it. But I did go through each change one by one and kind of show like how I feel. Don't forget to change title. Thank you very much. I will. I will indeed. It's very nice of you. I would have forgotten absolutely. Let's do a boon. I'm gonna go for a bit of a healing build. There you go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will, so sorry for the long-winded talking. I mean, I know I talked for 3 hours about the patch notes, but I think that most people who come to my stream know that I talk about things quite a bit and can enjoy the talking about stuff. I don't know. Yes, sir. I don't know why I always say really cringe things in the lobby. I don't know why. I like, for some reason, I just my social skills just degrade into like not being able to say nice things. I like talking about patch notes, stuff like that, and I like kind of breaking it down and talking about like the actual like practical like implications of a lot of stuff like that. I find it really fun. So and now we'll jump into games, so. Worst thing is when you say some cringe shit and everyone's fucking silent, yeah. I also like when I talk about patch notes and stuff like that to actually talk about what they mean, if that makes sense. Not just read the patch notes and be like, oh, that's what they're gonna do. You know what I mean? Because I feel like some people do that and it's like, it provides nothing. You know what I mean? It's like reaction content where they're actually not like reacting. It's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? You can just go look at them by yourself. You know what I mean? If you're here in my stream, you're here, 1, for interaction, or 2, to like hear me talk about things. You know what I mean? So I'm not just going to read them and not say anything. You know what I mean? But it does mean that I talk about them for a very long time. So, but I like to have discussions about stuff like that because I think it's really interesting, and also to talk about like the actual and think about the actual practicality of those changes, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, what does this actually mean for gameplay? You know what I mean? Not just, oh, what are the numbers, but what will that imply going forward? You know what I mean? Like, what will actually happen? Like, with the Onryo stuff, I think it'll be bad, man. Like, looking at the Onryo changes, that shit looks trash. Like, it does not look positive. So, we'll have to see what it looks like, because I do think that'll be have to see something to test out, but... Who's that? What is that? Huntress. Huntress. Yeah, I always say cringe shit in the lobbies for some reason. I'm not sure why. But we'll be playing games now for the rest of today, so don't worry about the talking. Today is going to be a long stream, so that's why it's okay that I talked about things for a long time. I'll be streaming for another, like, 4 hours, so. Oh, remind me to do something important after this stream, Wolfkins. Remind me that I have something important to look at. If I forget. But we'll do Skull Merchant right after I get enough shards, which should be like 2 games maybe. Honestly, we might play Skull Merchant like all day, honestly. I said some solo survivor, but I'm just gonna do like a quick bit just to get my shards, and then we'll play Skull Merchant. He's over there now. How the fuck did she get over there? I guess I was talking. He's having a bit of a rough time, but we've only got 2 gens done. Better than ideal. Medkit! Not very fast, to be honest. Charges went down real low, though. Got a lot of charges. Chasing the Jewel. Huntress is kind of struggling. Shouldn't really do this gen if somebody's doing the top gen. Doesn't look like anybody's doing the top gen. Let's just do this one. We're all on different gens, so this ain't looking good for Mrs. Huntress. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty lame of her, but I can understand why. Oh, yeah, she's very new. Although they have a 5th-year cake, so I mean, they used to play, but I guess they haven't played in a while. But they just don't have Huntress leveled up very much. Might be one of their first games playing Huntress. Oh yeah, they have Huntress leveled up, but not at all. You can see her prestige. That's rough. That's rough. Yeah, they just have basic perks. That's pretty sad. I will do that important thing. While we queue for another game. What was that weapon I got, actually? What's that for? Oh, it's that fucking glowy stick thing. It's not as important as I thought, thankfully. I thought a friend needed me for something. Oh, the Steam store is offline. That's concerning. They somebody sent me a message. A friend sent me a message and they used my name and it concerned me. I was like, oh shit. It's important. Something important's going down. But no, they just randomly said my name. So that's all good. Well, usually usually they don't say my name. They just say like yo or something like that. So it's just like a little bit out of place. Give me 1 second, sorry. Cool. Sorry. Talking to my friend. I did, because I do have some Steam money, I did buy Project Zomboid. I decided that one I was okay with. I appreciate that they have a reason why they don't want to drop their price. They have a reason for it. They explained their reason. They clearly stated it on the store page. and it's a good deal. 33% is, you know, only 7% off of when they go, like, the lowest they go down to. Fuck. Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you. I don't know, whenever Doctor shows up, that's all I can think of. The fucking Doctor, give me the news. It's such a good song for some reason. Or just that line in specific. I haven't actually heard the entire song. RimWorld, I'm not gonna buy RimWorld until it hits 25%. That's my rule, man. That's my rule, and I'm sticking. They're not gonna wear me down. I refuse. I refuse. I have enough games. I am not buying RimWorld unless it drops to 25%. Like that's it, man. There's no if or ands or buts. 25% or bust, okay? Not happening. News is you're gonna have a bad time, yeah. You put quotes, which makes me think maybe is that the real song? I don't actually know the rest of the song. That's the only part of the song I know. How much was Zomboid on? It was on 33%, but the highest they'd ever go is 40%. They'll never go below 40%. They've said that. Because of, like, a rule that they made towards early supporters of the game. Which I can respect that. I can respect that. You know, when you're a small indie company, I can appreciate respecting and really cherishing, like, your early adopters of your game. Because, you know, those people are what let you make your game popular. You know what I mean? So I can respect that. RimWorld, as far as I can tell, are just greedy bastards. Fucking hell, that's difficult as shit, dude. Oh, shit. So you'll take RimWorld at less than their maximum, but you only take RimWorld at more than they're willing to discount. Yeah, because I don't respect RimWorld. I don't respect the RimWorld devs. Why won't they put more of a sale? The only reason I can tell is they're greedy bastards. Oh, I wanted that, you son of a bitch. Oh. Why would you just stand there? It's also about principle, though. Like, I'd like to stick to my principles. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. That's how I feel. If they have the same reason, then I'll maybe change. But I don't think they have the same reason. This man is mind gaming you and himself in the strangest ways possible, yeah. Yes, indeed. I want to go back. Wow, we finished 3 gens. Holy fuck, dude. I mean, my chase was good, but it wasn't that good. These are some efficient gamers. To be fair, his first chase was also pretty bad. That Merciless Storm was hard to hit, though, with those backward skill checks, dude. I almost got it, though. I was like a couple away. I was like a couple away. I'm kind of liking this Jeff cosmetic. I like this this combo. I think that while some people might say it's silly, right, to stick to something that you said, even if you shouldn't, right? Like you've changed your mind. I think that it can be silly at times, but if it doesn't hurt anybody else and it only hurts me, then it kind of teaches me, and possibly other people should do it too, because it teaches you not to say things that you don't mean. You know what I mean? Like, it teaches you to be concise with the things that you say, you know what I mean? And that you actually, like, commit to. Fuck. Oh, you can heal me now. I failed it. I was too focused on her. I was like, fuck, she's gonna mess it up for me. And then I messed it up. Kind of funny. We might need it, man. We might need it. Probably not, but we might need it. I've also waited for Project Zomboid for a long time. So I was like, okay. And, like, I'm getting to the point where I'm, like, done waiting for Wormworld as well. But I don't want them to win. You know what I mean? I don't want them to win. But... if someone gifts it to you, is it really them winning? Yes! Because you bought it! They're getting the money somehow! They're getting the money somehow. No, I mean, they deserve their money. They have made a really good game. It's just I don't have that much money to spend. I mean, Project Zomboid was like a big purchase for me. But I did have some Steam cash from selling, like, CSGO skins. So I was like, alright, you know what? I'll make a big purchase for once. We've always planned, our goal is always planned to make a game that's worth its full price. We want to attract players who are interested enough for that price to make sense for them by improving and, oh my god. This is a fucking... Oh, okay, there is actually a post. The goal isn't to we've always planned for RimWorld to have a very long lifespan. The goal isn't to release it into a frenzy of hype, grab a bunch of sales, then be forgotten a year or two later. RimWorld is an institution that has lived and will continue for a long time as the community matures and we keep improving the game. Our goal has always been to make a game that's worth its full price. We want to attract players who are interested enough for that price to make sense for them by improving and expanding the game over years and years of active development, as opposed to seeking discount impulse buys. That's why for the first 7 years after it becomes available, RimWorld was never on sale. Since then, RimWorld has persisted in sales at small discounts. We'll at some point have greater discounts, but since the game has a long lifespan, this will take longer than for other games. That's fair. That is fair. I don't hate that. But I also feel like they could just put it on discount, because they're kind of like, their reasoning for saying like, oh, well, we don't want you, you know what I mean, like it's for you, you know what I mean, it's for you. That feels kind of weird to me. It's like, yeah, but it's also for you. You also get more money. But to be fair, discounts do give you a lot of sales. It's why games do discounts, is because it gives you a lot of sales. Because people buy it that maybe wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like they're saying, you know what I mean? Those people that go for the impulse discount buys. So I like, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. It does help them, but it also is a valid point that, you know, they would make some money doing those, you know, impulse sales. You also could say that they have the best of both worlds with their current strategy, because it's not on sale and everybody hears about how great of a game it is, so the people who are really interested will buy it on full price. But then when they eventually do sales, people will be like, oh my god, RimWorld's on 25%, it's never been that discounted off before, and they'll convince other people to buy it because it's never been at that discount before. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's kind of an interesting thing. They kind of get the best of both worlds in that regard, you know what I mean? But But I think it does, you know, help people a little bit with, like, you know, not going for those discount impulse buys. But that is an interesting mentality. I don't think it's as good, I don't think it's as sound as Project Zomboids, but, you know, it's something, at least. It's something. It's something. They're not greedy bastards. I'll resent that comment. To be fair, I was just joking, though. I don't have any ill fate towards them. I do feel like it's a little greedy to not put your game on sale very often, especially when it's been out for so long. But I have always said that it is their game, and they are well within their right, and they have made a game that is worth full price, don't get me wrong. It is just that I don't really buy things not on sale, because, like, their game is worth the price, and it is 100% within their right for them to never put it on sale. The only reason you expect sales is because it's the industry norm to put your games on sales quite often, once they've been out for a while. And so just because they're doing the opposite of the industry norm doesn't make them greedy bastards. It just is, they're doing something different, right? They are perfectly well within their right not to put it on sale. I'm mostly just joking around about that. But it's just that I don't have that much money to spend, and I have a lot of games, so I don't really buy anything unless it's on, like, crazy sales. Like, I usually don't buy anything unless it's on 80%. The Project Zomboid is probably the first thing in, like, the last, like, 4 years. Yeah, Borderlands. Borderlands 3 was the last thing I bought that wasn't on sale. So, it's probably, like, the Project Zomboid's, like, last thing in, like, the 4 years that I've spent full price on. Or, well, more than an 80% or 75% sale. And I'm not exaggerating. Genuinely. That's the first thing in the last 4 years that I've bought that wasn't on a 40% sale. Or 80% sale. That was clutch. Ooh, nice. That was good. He's not bad. He's gonna dash now. He left me. He thought I was doing too much pressure there. Nice. Pretty good. Pretty good. He didn't break that window either. He's chasing after the Claudette instead. Right after your Dance With Me combo, it's too much opportunity cost. Because it's 2 perks. So I don't always run it. I only run it sometimes when I don't feel like I need the perk slots for other things. Because survivors, when they have to start comboing perks, it does feel like a lot of opportunity cost. It's what I talk about, like the fact that like 1 survivor perk isn't anything. 2, you start to have a little bit of opportunity cost. It's like, is this worth 2 of my perks? You know what I mean? And sometimes I just feel like Dance With Me isn't worth 2 perks. I guess it's just 1 perk to be fair, but like it doesn't give me any value by itself, really. So it's the fact that I'm using it with Lithe, you know what I mean? But I'm gonna use Lithe anyways, I guess, so it's like kind of not opportunity cost. It's only 1 perk with opportunity cost. Could do the gen. He's gonna 3-gen really strong here, and we need to get rid of this. This isn't looking good, but we did finish 1 gen. My gen had a little bit of progress, but he probably kicked it. That's not good. We need to get rid of this 3-gen though. It's kind of my job. I could heal with my medkit, but it'll take too long, I think. I'm just gonna... Wow, well played by that Lisa. That was good, actually. Just tunneling. have to get rid of this 3 gen, otherwise we're fucked. What are you doing? He doesn't know we're over here. Do the gen. Please do the gen. We need to get rid of this 3 gen, otherwise we lose the game. Stop being such a pussy. No, she's going for the save. Never mind. I thought she was hiding. I was like, motherfucker, get the fuck back on this generator with me. Is he gonna tunnel him again? He might. Nice, that's a big generator to get. You can heal me now. Stop being scared, just heal me. Alright. Like, if we want to win this game, we have to be efficient here. We don't have time to not be efficient. This is the gen we should do. Oh, that one has progress. Do this one instead. Is she here, though? No, she went upstairs, I think. Fuck. I should heal this guy. He's on death hook. Oh, I'm sorry. That was really bad. Hopefully he didn't see that. He might have seen that. He didn't see that. Nice.